What's up, guys? It's KB. Make sure you subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. Click the bell icon down below so you don't miss a single video from us. And thanks for tuning in to another video from Underground Sports Philadelphia. Now let's get into it.
Philadelphia, baby, you're going to love it. Best sports fans in the world. Actually, the worst, but that's what makes them the best.
What is going on, OTB Nation? Welcome into episode number 348 of the award-nominated, honorably mentioned, number 9 NCAA ranked, and of course, viewable on YouTube, Outside the Box podcast, presented by Shootout For Soldiers. It's KB coming at you from Underground Studios. Deej is in his work studio right now, but turn the camera off because he's afraid of me, and I understand that. I am quite haggard to look at, but what are you going to do? We've got quite the show for you. We had quite the show going into it, and then the PLL decided to say, hey, boys, let's get OTB talking about the league again. They said, we're done with the fictional lacrosse stuff for a while. Let's give some real lacrosse. So we will absolutely dive into the big trade, some big extensions. We also have your voicemails on our voicemail line that you guys can leave us voicemails literally 24/7, 365. The voicemail line is always open. It's speakpipe.com/OTBLaxPod. Leave us a voicemail. You will be featured on the episodes if you do so. And we'll react to whatever you leave in the voicemail line. And of course, guys, make sure you're following us on the socials at OTB Laxpod across the board. Follow Deej on Twitter at SCS_NextGreat. Follow Chase at the PLL Pipeline. Follow Hoots at Hoot Sports Media. Follow me at KBIZZL311. Subscribe to the pod on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts in audio form. Leave a 5-star review. Goes a long way for helping this show continue to grow. Lets the OTB community continue to thrive and flourish and gets more ears and eyes on the podcast. And of course, subscribe to both the Underground Sports Philadelphia and OTB YouTube channels. YouTube.com/@Underground Sports Philadelphia is where you get full video episodes of this show every single week. Full video episodes of every show on our network, clips, shorts, live streams, original video content, and the OTB YouTube channel. We're working on processing, getting all of our interviews up on that channel that we have had throughout the year. So you can just watch the interviews there, and we're working on building out that channel as well for some fun stuff. So subscribe to both, leave a like on the video, drop a comment down below, click that bell icon so you know whenever new videos go live. We're on that road to 1,000 subscribers. We're 132 away. Let's get to 1,000 before the end of 2024. And of course, guys, this show is presented by Shootout For Soldiers. And this month, it's Wall Ball for War Fighters. Get on the wall, everybody. From Wednesday, October 30th to Sunday, December 8th, 2024, Wall Ball for War Fighters is making a difference for our nation's veterans through the power of lacrosse. It's Veterans Weekend this coming weekend as you guys are listening to this. So happy Veterans Day to all the veterans out there that listen to the show. We know there's quite a few, so thank you for your service. We're excited to once again be on board for the first time for us with Shootout For Soldiers and Wall Ball for Warfighters and the Wall Ball for Warfighters campaign, where you can sign up and help support those who have served our country. Throughout the month, we invite lacrosse enthusiasts of all levels to participate by logging your wall ball sessions and contributing to a collective effort that gives back to our heroes. Whether you're a seasoned player or just starting out, your participation will help raise crucial funds and awareness for veteran support programs. Get involved, challenge your friends, and make every rep count. Together, we can show our gratitude and make a lasting impact. Ready to rep for a cause. Let's get started. You can register for Wall Ball for Warfighters at wallballforwarfighters.com and click the register button. You can also donate as well, or visit shootoutforsoldiers.com. Both are linked in the description. Get on board. Deej and I are conjuring up our way to get involved with our videos and everything for Wall Ball for Warfighters. So definitely check it out. Link is in the description. And we thank Shootout For Soldiers for being the proud presenting partner of the Outside the Box podcast. What's poppin', Deej? It's been a long week.
It has been a long week, but I've been vibing, dog. I had my Tuesday off for election day, so I was able to get out and enjoy life a little bit after vote. Well, before voting, I voted a little later in the day, but I did go out and do my civil duty as well. And And then
as you know, hot guys vote.
hey,
I'm
I
just
get
saying.
it. He said it, y'all, not me. You know what I'm saying? But I've been chilling, dog, getting ready for basketball season to come around now that football's over. So I'll be back announcing basketball, and then winter lacrosse starts up soon. So
Winter is coming. Yeah, election day happened. I know it is a controversial topic in a lot of ways. I mentioned this on Wednesday's episode of Underground Sports Philadelphia when I recorded with Harrison. I wanted to bring it up on here because our community is large, it's diverse. And Deej and I were talking throughout the week about a lot of things, and I just felt it pertinent to bring up on this show that obviously this week it's been a tough week for a lot of people, myself and Deej included, for a number of reasons. We just feel the need to remind everyone, because we get new listeners all the time, new viewers all the time, and the OGs that have been with us and anybody that comes through. We want everyone to know that the Outside the Box podcast, OTB Nation, Underground Sports Philadelphia, we are a community that was founded on fan analysis and being fans ourselves and being a community that is welcoming to all walks of life. There's no ifs, ands, or buts that if you know Deej, if you know myself, if you know Chase, if you know Hoots, we don't tolerate bullshit, and we don't tolerate exclusivity, and we don't tolerate people not being inclusive, especially in this community. We want everyone to know that we are here for you. If you need a shoulder to lean on, if you need somebody to talk to, our DMs are always open. We have a number of resources that Deej and I have working with and in schools and everything are afforded. So if there's ever any resource you need, just somebody to have listen to you, hear you. I want everyone who listens to this podcast and watches this podcast and sees us out on the road to know that, like, we are here for you. We listen to you. We see you. We value you as people first and foremost. And if there's anything that we can do as people to people, we will 100% be there for our community. It is something that Deej and I have been vocal about probably even since before we met. And we just continue to try and do better and better. And just being there for one another is something that, as I've gotten older, going from my 20s and now in my early 30s, like, just being there for people and caring about people is something that I really, really try to emphasize and hearken in on. And just being inclusive to all walks of life, hearing people, valuing them. And we just want everyone to know that if you listen to this podcast, you are all of those things. You are valued, you are seen, you are heard, you are welcome to any of our events, to listen to this show without any judgment, without any, fear of feeling neglected or not wanted around in this community. And if there's anything that you guys need or resources or anything like that, do not hesitate to reach out to us.
absolutely. I mean, the biggest thing I always tell any kid that I get a chance to mentor or coach or be around is you got to know the important things that you need to know for whatever it is that you want to do. But that's only about 10% of it, if that. People are going to remember how you treat them and who you are. Give a good impression at all times that you can and treat people the way you want to be treated, and you will go far in life. And I say that because I live by that. I try and treat every single person as best as I possibly can. And I'm not perfect. I'm a human. There are times where I've said things or done things to people that I shouldn't have. And most of the time, I can probably say with 99.9% confidence that I have gone back and owned up for everything that I've done wrong and apologized for it, because that does make a difference at the end of the day. Treat people well, and that's really all that matters. And we are a podcast, so we'll always treat people well, and that's the end of the day. Like you said, if you need anything from us, don't hesitate. We'll be here. Any time of the day is a stretch. I mean, it's open, it's available. We may get back to you a little late, but we'll get
We
back.
will get back to you.
Absolutely, and we'll be there to help, whatever the case may be.
But yeah, I mean, I know it has been a rough week for a lot of people. It's going to be a turbulent and tumultuous time for quite a while for a lot of people. So just wanted to get that out there off the top. And if you feel like you don't agree with what we just said, maybe we're not the podcast for you. So appreciate your support up until this point. But if you feel the need to not listen anymore because of that, so be it. You know, we want this to be a welcoming and all-inclusive community to all walks of life. And there's a lot of people out there that I know, you know, with Deej and I being around students and everything, there's a lot of craziness in the world right now. So we are doing the best we can to provide any resource possible for all walks of life right now that need it. And just know that we are there for you 110% of the way. Deej, I guess the PLL was tired of the fictional lacrosse and they're ready for the real lacrosse. And we have a big trade to talk about, quite a number of extensions to talk about that are big. And it's all brought to you by the PLL app. The PLL app is the #1 destination to get up to the second information about the Premier Lacrosse League, whether it's articles, videos, press conferences, the whole 9 yards. It is available to you. Behind the scenes looks. They've also got trivia. It's a gamified league app. It is one of the best apps I have on my phone, hands down. I use it every single day. You get app perks for moving up and leveling up in the app as well. So download the PLL app. Stay up to date with everything in the Premier Lacrosse League that's going on, especially, you know, this time of year. We're rolling around that January 1st date before we know it, and that's a big day for the PLL, dropping news on our heads. You'll want to have the PLL app locked and loaded. So download the PLL app in the App Store, Google Play Store, or go to pll.app. And you can also get 500 XP on your account when you go to the redeem code section. Type in OTBPOD. That's OTB pod for 500 XP on your account. Deej, we have trade news for the people. The Boston Cannons trade Pat Kavanagh to the Denver Outlaws in exchange for 2 draft picks, one being the 2025 third overall pick, the other being a 2026 second round pick in exchange for last year's 6th overall pick. When you see this trade come through, what's the initial reaction of another Kavanagh heading to the Denver Outlaws?
I said, what did I say? Actually, because
I sent it in the group chat. And you're exact. I sent holy shit with the post.
oh my fuck.
You said oh my fuck in all caps, and Chase said, I'm sorry, they did what?
And then I didn't tell y'all, but I literally went to myself. Why? Why? But I'm gonna save that. I'll save that piece for later. It's not a terrible move, is what I will say. But first, it was just mind-boggling. Just that's it. Just pure like, huh, bruh?
It's surprising from the standpoint of Brian Holman feeling so strongly about Pat Kavanagh as a player, and it felt like he was like a foundation piece for them, because we talked to Coach Holman about it during the season. Preseason last year is like, we haven't had many draft picks since I've been here. And it felt like Pat Cav was like that first kind of like cog in the wheel of like them adding like that youth influx in this past draft, obviously being that for them. And then to move on from Pat that quickly was like, whoa. But I mean, Pat's coming off 2 straight seasons of like battling through to win national titles at Notre Dame. And he never really, in our opinion, I think I speak for you here too, we both feel that way. And he missed time. He was never fully healthy last year. And he never found, his groove because of that. It was a lot of like start and stall for Pat last year with the Cannons. I think my shock is just that they moved on after a season, and the season that it was, where you didn't really have a fully healthy Pat Cav. And to move on, it also signals to me that it feels like, because obviously we know a salary cap now is in place in the PLL. To what degree, we don't fully know. It's one of those things we have to sit down one day and just do the backwards math for it. But I think the other piece of this that I took away from it is they really know that they have to go all in and get Asher Nolting re-signed, because I think a lot of people don't realize Asher's a pending free agent.
I think the bigger thing here is the piece you just mentioned. It's not surprising they moved on from Pat when you look at the build of their team and how it's constructed, how they play, and the way that they line up to start. There isn't really space for Pat to be Pat.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a piece that a lot of people are missing is, yes, these players are great, and yes, every team should be trying to hold on to players like Pat Kavanagh. But if you can't have Pat Kavanagh as Pat Kavanagh, you arguably don't want Pat Kavanagh.
There's a reason Pat Cav fell to number 6, quote unquote, as well.
Not because he's not good, not because he can't be successful, but you want him playing at his very best level. There's only one place to put him for him to be at his very best level. And I'm sorry, he's not going to take that place from the person that is currently there. And they are looking to keep that person there for some time.
Mm-hmm.
So for them, it kind of looked like it was a waiting game for them to find what they felt was acceptable to take for Pat Kavanagh. And now they feel like they have gotten what they feel they deserve. So they went ahead and took it and moved on.
And I mean, they're picking, I believe, 3rd and 4th now in this upcoming draft in 2025. So to have 2 of the top 4 picks in an 8-team league is huge. They also get a 2026 second-round pick, so that also remains to be seen where that falls in the draft. Nonetheless, that is a top 16 pick. And in the PLL, that is a valuable commodity, whether it be that the Cannons are going to use that to draft or they use that as a trade piece. A top 16 pick in the PLL is a huge asset to have in your back pocket if you're Brian Holman. And I think Pat Cav going to the Outlaws is a wild thing to just conjure up what their offense is going to look like even more now. And I believe TLN posted like their projected look of what the Outlaws offense is going to look like. And it's a crazy look when you have the potential to have these 6 guys running your offense of Pat Cav, Brennan O'Neill, Cross Ferrara, Eric Law, Justin Anderson, Graham Bundy Jr., and that's not even to include Logan Wisnauskas, which now his whole, future with the Outlaws is fully up in the air of where he ends up being. But I mean, their offensive firepower in Denver is crazy. They now, as of right now, have the last 3 Tewaaraton winners on their roster. And I love this comment on the PLL announcement about Pat Cav getting traded. Our guy Dre from the Dre Lax pod said, crashing that tea party.
That's kind of wild.
That's crazy. It's a wild trade. I think at the end of the day, it's a solid move for both teams. for the things that you mentioned, like Pat Cav on this current construction of the Boston Cannons is not going to be Pat Cav at his best. You move him to a team like the Outlaws that are young. You have Brennan O'Neill there. He can learn from Eric Law as well. I think this is a best case scenario for Pat Cav, where he's now going to be able to play as himself, going to be in a young core, that already showed that they have wild talent and youth on that Outlaws team. And I think it's a great move for Pat Cav's longevity for his career. And then for the Cannons to get 2 primo draft picks, a top 3 pick in this year's draft and the second round pick in 2026. That's big time for them.
Yeah, I mean, being young in this league has shown to be beneficial and successful. We've seen it from a handful of teams now who have gone from the older end to the younger end and have found success, or teams who have sprinkled in some young age and have found immediate success from those younger guys. So it's no surprise Cannons want to get more draft picks to find more guys that fit into their scheme. And I mean, if you're going to do that, you have to move expendable pieces. When you look at the Cannons, they have more attackmen than like everybody on the planet. They're going to be moving attackmen if they're moving anybody. And, it just so happens that Pat would be the one that is not necessarily most sought after, but the easiest to move. I don't think anybody really would, no disrespect to Will Manny, but when you can have Pat Cav instead of Will Manny, you're probably taking Pat Kavanagh for reasons of age and longevity and those kinds of things. And then obviously, I don't see the Cannons giving up, Marcus Holman or Asher. So that leaves Matt Kavanagh. And do you want older Cav or younger Cav for the same reasons that we just talked about with Will Manny? So it kind of was just a position where they're moving the pieces that they can move to hopefully probably go get some defense, because that's where they're really lacking in terms of what they need moving forward. And this was just really the smartest move for their team moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I also think, with what we said, like Asher's a pending free agent, and I think a lot of people just forget about the free agency aspect of the PLL too. And when you have Asher, and this is also, we'll talk about it too, Marcus signed an extension 4 days ago. This trade happened yesterday as we record this on Friday, or happened on Wednesday. So like Marcus gets extended, then this trade happens. That tells me, obviously, like I said, they're going to be going all in to retain Asher, have him, as one of the faces of this franchise for years to come. But while Asher is still young, he's also a win now piece. And the Cannons are kind of in win now mode with the way their roster is constructed top to bottom right now. The Outlaws, while they're winning, and we saw them have success this season with such a young core, they're still developing while winning. And in an 8-team league where 6 teams make the playoffs, you can afford to do that if you're the Outlaws and watch this team grow and play together. And if you make the playoffs, awesome. That's a great thing for a youthful team like they did this year. But they're still developing guys who are going to play together for a long time. And that's the hope, I'm sure, with that Outlaws organization. But the Cannons are in win now mode. Like, you have an older Marcus Holman. You have an older Matt Kavanagh. You have Will Manny on this roster, who I'm sure is also now going to get a quality look in training camp this year because you moved on from Pat. When and if, I would assume when Asher is retained, you have Asher Knowlton, who is the present and future of this team. Your defense is in their prime. Your midfield, for the most part, is in their prime. Like, the Cannons are trying to win a championship, while the Outlaws are trying to develop the winning culture and still go forward and compete and see if the chips fall their way to win a championship. So this makes sense from both sides when you really sit down and take the aftershock of seeing Pat Cav getting traded. But it's the third Cav to be playing for the Denver Outlaws. So I guess we could just say that the Kavanagh family, they're the Outlaws of pro lacrosse.
We are?
We?
I don't know. I don't know.
Who's to say?
You heard it here first.
But on top of this, that's our initial reaction there. You know, it's a trade that makes sense for both sides. I personally think you're in agreement with me that this is the best for Pat Cav's just long-term career in the PLL and allowing him to be Pat Cav. And then Brian Holman now has 2 more draft picks to utilize, and who knows, maybe he uses one with the Redwoods and trades up to get another Cav. And then we're in the same spot next year where a Cav goes to Boston and gets traded to the Outlaws. Who knows? But if you didn't know, our voicemail line is open, and if you want to react to the Pat Cav trade, leave us a comment on the YouTube comment section or in the Spotify comment section as well if you listen on Spotify. But we do have voicemails for the very first time, Deej, and our voicemails today are brought to you by Paramount Plus. That's right, Paramount Plus. We're a Paramount pod, and DJ was so timely that we got this announcement from Paramount Plus, because if you missed the news, our guy Harrison is back on board on the main pod with yours truly every single Wednesday. It's Wednesdays with Harry the K on Underground Sports Philadelphia. But DJ, this Saturday, it's you versus Harrison, because you can get in on the action on Paramount Plus this Saturday, November 9th, and stream Michigan versus the number 8 Indiana Hoosiers. Live Saturday, November 9th. Coverage starts at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Watch live with the Paramount Plus with Showtime plan. Catch epic matchups like this every Saturday and stream Big Ten football on CBS Live with the Paramount Plus with Showtime plan. You can try it for free or click our link in the description and subscribe to Paramount Plus, because Deej and I have talked about this, and I've talked about it with a bunch of people at our company. Paramount Plus, bang for your buck. Streaming platforms, the best, hands down, from live sports to their back catalog of all of the nostalgic 90s Nickelodeon shows. Deej is watching Survivor on Paramount Plus. They have every episode of Survivor on there. They've got Beavis and Butthead. They've got the new season of Ink Master, NCIS Origins. The list goes on and on. But stream Big Ten football on CBS Live with the Paramount Plus with Showtime plan. Try it for free or subscribe to Paramount Plus using our link in the description.
Don't watch that game, y'all. Don't watch that game. There's
Watch
going to
plenty
be
of live football, though.
Hey, listen, I promise you there's going to be another game that's on at 3:30 that'll be better than that one. Don't
There's
watch
some
that
good
game.
football on Sunday on Paramount Plus, too. Eagles Cowboys. Gonna be a doozy.
I don't know if that's going to be a good game.
It is for me. We got voicemails, though. This first one is from our guy Aiden, friend of the program from the Boston Battery. So, Boston Cannons fan reacting directly to their golden boy, their number 1 draft pick last year, getting traded right off the rip. So here's Aiden's voicemail, our first voicemail here.
Hey, it's Aiden, one of the leaders of the Boston Battery support group for the Cannons, calling in to talk about the huge news today of Pat Kavanagh's trade. Definitely did not see this coming, but you know, in hindsight, I think it's not as crazy as maybe it sounds. You know, the Cannons obviously had Will Manny on the roster, didn't play. Kind of his older brother Matt, not as prolific anymore as he maybe once was, and Pat himself didn't really want to or didn't feel comfortable playing that lefty attack spot. So that being said, I think they got a good trade value back for him with that 3rd overall pick and a 2nd round pick in next year's draft. So Cannons now have the 3rd and 4th pick in this upcoming draft in May 2025. I don't know if they're taking his pick or his replacement with one of those picks. It seems like the consensus is that the best lefty attack spot is probably Coulter Maxey, more of a 2nd round guy, but you know, I think with Will Manny and then John Robinson as well, who they had on the roster but didn't play much or at all in Manny's case, I would expect them to try to maybe tackle this in free agency or perhaps another trade when that opens up. But huge news. I mean, I wish it happened closer to the season just so we didn't have to wait so long to see what this is going to look like. And from the Outlaws' perspective, you know, they got to be really excited. I don't know where Pat's going to fit into that offense, but I think we're all excited to see it.
Yeah. I mean, perfectly put from a Cannons fan perspective. Definitely nobody saw this coming. And it makes sense when you have kind of like win now type of players on that roster, like we said. You get at as much value as possible for a not 100% Pat Cav, and when you're able to get a top 3 pick for him, that's a huge deal. You essentially net positived on the Pat Cav pick, where Pat Cav went number 6 overall in last year's draft. You now have the number 3 overall pick in the following year's draft to supplant it. I'm not saying talent wise, but just from a draft pick wise.
You call that net positive?
From just from the draft pick standpoint. I'm not saying the player.
I think that might have gone up.
Yeah, I'm saying for the Cannons, that's a positive.
I think
the Cannons,
it's a large positive.
Yeah, because you not only moved up 3 spots in a first round, but you also got that second round pick the following year.
And I mean, even without the second round pick the following year, just going up 3, like just offloading someone that you can't use successfully is a win. And then getting a first round pick is another win. Right. And then realizing that first round pick can be used in a multitude of ways is another win. Like this is just a flat out win for both sides. I think this is the first time since Fieldsy McKay that we can say both sides truly won a trade.
Yeah.
I think Fieldsy and Mickey was the last time that we said that like it evenly worked out for the two teams and what they needed.
Yeah, because I think you need a little bit of time to kind of see those trades come to fruition. And who knows, we could be sitting here talking about a similar thing with like the Jared Connors trade with the Archers and the Redwoods. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a huge positive for the Cannons. Removing the name Pat Kavanagh from it, just from looking at it from the draft perspective, it's a huge deal for them. All right, next voicemail, Jack Vandy from the Instagram. Here it is. Jack also left us 2 voicemails. We'll play his second one after all of the trade reactions, but this is his reaction to the trade.
Okay, this is Jack leaving a message from Colorado. In my first reaction to the trade that sent Pat Kavanagh to the Outlaws, I think that the Outlaws should trade Wisnauskas for a second-round pick. And then with that pick, draft Jake Taylor. And then I think he should kind of do a role that Xander Dixon played for the Atlas in 23. Where Xander Dixon ran through the box, got a year of experience in the pros, and then after a year, Eric Law would still be there. So Eric Law could still give the offense to mature a little bit and quarterback the offense for one more year. And then, because he's probably going to hang up the cleat soon, then they can put Jake Taylor on attack, and then he could have a Xander Dixon like role in the mold, and then the Outlaws would have a mold of the PLL Atlas attack with Brendan O'Neill on the left side. He's not the passer of Teat, but he's a better dodger and just like get to the goal, can make plays, set up his teammates. Pat Kavanagh, the quarterback, rides, hustles, and then Jake Taylor, the off-ball player, sets picks and kind of do whatever. But that's my take, what I think the Outlaws should do.
Deej, your thoughts?
I'm about to sound real crazy, no kids. But who in their right mind is giving up a second round for Wiz right now?
I was thinking the same thing.
Okay, like I don't sound that crazy then, because like I'm not
like
sure.
off talent alone, sure, but he missed all of last year, and you don't know how he's going to come back from the injury. I almost for certain feel like Logan's going to get traded.
Hey, actually, no cap. Let the Redwoods get Logan. I already said Rob.
I don't hate that.
I'm going to move on from Rob. But obviously he's not going to play the left side like he probably would want to, but he can play X.
Right.
In a system that works for him. He can have Chris Gray on one side as a shooter. Then he has Westberg coming out of the box to fill the middle, Ryder on the other side, and then you got your two mids that are running with Wes.
It's a
Which
much faster offense.
to go off of what Jack was saying, I love the idea of picking up Jake Taylor if they are able to ship this off for a second. And I think he should run more of what I talked about with Westberg, where he runs out of the box every possession and plays the inside. And then you have two other midfielders that rotate through. He's the best inside guy in the game in college game right now. Why try and change up anything that he's doing? And you don't need to take out another starter and start him at attack to have him down there to play the inside. Any other attackman you have can finish on the fast break. You don't need Jake out there to finish on the fast break, but you do need him out there in the settled set to wreak havoc on the inside. Run him out as a midfielder and take advantage of still having three fully functionable attackmen, which is why I felt the way I did at the beginning of the year about Shelley running out of the box and having Eric Law started attack for Atlas with Peyton Cormier on one side and Jeff Teat on the other. It still allows everybody to be successful because Connor Schellenberger can do his thing from the top, and you can turn Xandon Dixon into a slashing cutter. So those two guys don't get affected. But you take Eric Law from down at attack, he's a very different player that probably isn't as successful. So you're starting to look at those pieces. Logan is the one piece that can be moved around, which also means he might not go anywhere. He might just get shifted into this midfield that definitely needs some help already, and you go from there. And I'm sorry,
say, like,
Pat's probably going to the midfield unless he plays that right side where Cross currently is.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think they're
also
moving Josh from at X. Honestly, Jay-Z was great at X last year for Denver. I don't think they're going to move him from there. And if they do, I don't think he's as successful as Pat could be from up top in the mid. So there's a lot of moving pieces there, but realistically, they're in good shape whether they move Logan or not.
I was going to say, even if they don't move Logan, Logan's got the athleticism to do what Xander does.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's contingent on him coming back healthy, but Logan can do what Xander does for the Outlaws. No question about it. And then you can use that draft pick on somebody else.
Absolutely. There's a lot that can be done now with what the Outlaws have.
Great voicemail. We'll hear from Jack again in a minute. Here's our guy Joey B with his reaction.
OTB Lax. What's going on, fellas? Hell of a trade that we just witnessed from both teams. Denver finally getting the piece that they need on that attack line with Wisnauskas coming back, with Brendan O'Neill in his second season. This team, honestly, might be fit to make a run for the 1 seed, depending on the growth of their rookies last year to this year. People are going to be hating on Boston, but I'm going to take a different approach and think that they're going to do a quick rebuild. They now have 2 picks in the top 4. Last year, their team was all over the place. They would at times look like the best team in the league. Other times, they couldn't score goals. They didn't really have a great place for Pat to play. They have relatively 2 ball-dominant players in Marcus, who becomes a little less ball-dominant, but Asher Nolting, definitely a ball-dominant player. So I think they're just going to hit a quick reset, and now their eyes look to the draft. Probably going to take an LSM, most likely going to take a midi. So, while people might jump on Boston quickly and say, how could you trade a Kavanagh brother? Let's look at things from a different perspective. Thanks, guys.
I think people forget that Josh Sawada is on the Outlaws.
And Eric Law is there now. Like, they need help in the midfield. Like, sure, they're adding attackmen, but it's to move guys around and play in the midfield. Like, they need to bolster their midfield. And that's what all these moves are really about. They had the attackmen there and they scored. They made the playoffs, people. You don't make the playoffs without scoring goals.
Unless they almost advanced.
Like, come on.
They almost eliminated the team that went on to the championship.
The only team that made it to the playoffs without scoring goals was the Chaos because they wasn't giving them up.
Mm-hmm.
Atlas or Outlaws weren't in that position. They were giving up goals too. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
They gave them up, so that means they had to score them too. Like this team could score. Not too worried about that piece. But I do like what he brought up about, cannons and turning toward the draft and rebuild. I think they're fine.
It's almost like a retool.
Yeah. And my thing is they better be drafting a new defender, in my opinion, and I mean, the LSM would be okay because to me, long poles, for the most part, especially at this level, are pretty versatile. You can go both way. Like if we need you to pull down and play close, or we need you to go up from close and play LSM, it can be done. So I think them getting a pole, whether it's a defenseman or an LSM, is huge. So that's the big piece there is making sure that they get some added depth down on the defensive end.
Yeah, 100%. And I do agree with him that I think a lot of people initially, now that it's kind of settled a bit more, it's not as much, but I think initially, like, what are the Cannons doing? I agree. Like, relax a little bit. Like, and we mention it, we'll mention it over and over. Like, priority number one this offseason is re-signing Asher Nolting. Like, you have to do that first. And I mean, let's also not forget that, like, he was out last year. This team still has Jonathan Donville in the midfield for the Cannons. They still have Ryan Drenner. We'll talk about it too. They just extended Matt Campbell, Connor Kirst, Vardaro, Ryan Drenner, Chris Eslani, and like they're still loaded. It's the defense that definitely needs some help. And obviously they'll be getting Jack Keelty back from injury. So like that'll help there too. But they definitely need some depth with, guys hitting that prime age, but you also want to look towards the future and bolster up when you can. So we'll see what they do with the draft picks for sure. We have an anonymous voicemail, Deej. Now, I will say to everybody listening and watching, I screened this, so it's an okay anonymous voicemail. I feel like you probably know who this is. But here's our...
Wait. Why do you think I know?
You'll find out. Here's our anonymous voicemail reacting to the Pat Cav trade.
Hey, so I just want to say that Pat Kavanagh going to Denver is huge. Him and Brennan are gonna be great. It's gonna be crazy. But more importantly, let's go Kalamazoo United Lacrosse. Let's go DJ. Yeah.
I'm gonna send him a text right now.
I was like, who the hell is leaving an anonymous voicemail I listened to? I was like, oh my God. He's just going to lose his mind laughing when I play this.
Oh my God, dude. These kids, bro.
For reference, one of your players, I assume?
Yes. Yeah, he's one of mine. Oh, that is hilarious.
That's so funny.
Realistically, I hate to break y'all's hearts, but I doubt we're going to see all three of these players on the field at the same time for the same team.
Who?
The last three Toritons. So,
yeah.
I think one of them is getting shipped away. I just don't think there's space realistically. Well, I shouldn't say that. There is space, but I don't think you can keep players of their caliber all together because of their skill sets and where they're most successful, like I talked about earlier with Pat Kavanagh. So they're going to have to get moved around. What this move does tell me, though, which I haven't gotten into yet, is that the Redwoods ain't getting Asher Nolting.
No.
It was out there. There was a chance, but
now,
it ain't happening.
Before we play our last voicemail, which is more on the Outlaws as a team, just looking at where they have these guys listed, the Outlaws have a shit ton of midfielders in terms of where positionally they're listed on the team's official roster. Like, I'll read them off to you. You tell me your thoughts on like potentially one of these midfielders getting moved. Justin Anderson, Graham Bundy Jr., Matt Costin, Cross Ferrara, Dylan Gengar Gregar, Sam Hanley, Dalton Young, Josh Sawada.
Get moved where?
Just in general, like, do they potentially trade any of those midfielders
If it's anybody, it's Costin. I don't think you want to trade anybody else off of that. Everybody else you just named has been a very key contributor for this team in the last 2 seasons. You don't get rid of your young players that are contributing. You look to move guys that aren't really helping. No one there hasn't helped. They've looked good the last 2 years. They just have been at the bottom of the barrel due to being so young and not having the experience to burst through in tough scenarios. I wouldn't move a single soul from the midfield line. I think they're in a very solid position to take over the West. Like, you look at the West, they got to beat the Archers. That not saying that's not a tough task, but if you beat the Archers, you're in front.
Which they almost did this year.
Because chaos is
in a weird spot.
Literal chaos right now, just in terms
outside of their back end.
Yeah, everything's really interesting
and Josh Byrne
over there. And then the Redwoods are the Redwoods. We don't even have that. That is self-explanatory. So they're in a very good position to be extremely successful. I wouldn't touch too much about this team. I think you just have to figure out what combination of 19 works best for you. And then from there, what combination of midfielders and attackmen and that kind of thing work for you. And I think you do that in training camp. You got to really hammer away at training camp and see what it looks like.
Last voicemail, it is Jack Vandy again talking about just the Denver Outlaws and a lot more on their defense. So here's Jack Vandy.
I have a question for you guys regarding the Denver Outlaws close defense. So they're very solid with JT Giles-Harris. Was a 21 graduate, so he definitely has a lot more gas in the tank. But Mike Manley and Jesse Bernhardt, I do believe they'll probably be back for one more season at least, but I don't know for sure. So I was wondering what you guys think the Outlaws do this draft, if they try to get a pull in the second, third, or fourth round, depending on what picks they have. I forget what trades they've made, but do you think they try to get a later round defender? I don't even know who they could get in the second. A good player, and I know they're close to their reserves are like Sam Alexo and Greg Wild, both extremely good players. Sam Alexo's very raw talent, has been proven in the pros. Wild's he's a good player, definitely not a star, but he's solid, but I just don't know what they do. Or do you think they wait till next year and then draft a like Billy Dwan or someone in the draft?
It's hard to answer that question at the very moment because we don't know what is going to happen with who is currently there. We cannot act like Jesse Bernhardt hasn't been hurt quite a few times in the last few years. And
he's also a free agent.
So he could be looking at either moving on or simply just ending his career. Mike Manley could be looking at ending his career as he continues to get older. And then you still haven't hit Grill, and you have some pieces that are there currently. I mean, JT Giles-Harris
I have
isn't
the whole
going anywhere.
Outlaws free agent list for you too, if you want it.
Just the D guys, if there's any on there.
Jesse Bernhardt, Nick Grill, Will Haas, Owen McElroy, Eli Salama, Alex Smith, Greg Weil.
Greg Weil is perfectly fine to go back to. And he filled in from time to time this year and was spectacular at doing so. I think you re-sign, what's his face? Nick Grill. I think you got to get him back in the building. I think that's important. You still have JT there. And then you can go after some guys that are in this draft. Or, like you said, Billy Dwan III is a great guy to kind of keep your eye on in the next few years. And there's going to be some solid polls coming out. So, that's always something to think about. Sean Light has 2 more years, technically 3, because this will be his sophomore season. That's a guy that they should keep their eye on as well. But realistically, I don't think they're in a position to worry too much because, in my opinion, I think Jesse returns. I think you can re-sign Greg and Nick Grill. That gives you at least 4 to 5 guys right there that are already ready to play and in good shape, know your system. And then you may be able to talk Mike Manley back into another year, and you take advantage of that. But I wouldn't quite hit the panic button too much on the defense yet. I think they're in an okay position, but maybe you look to trade for a guy like Marcus Hudgens, who's kind of just sitting and not
Stop
playing,
that.
or you can even look at Jack Posey with Chaos, who isn't playing a lot. Like there's some guys who are kind of fifth poles in some places that aren't playing that could be worth a trade look as well.
I'm also just looking at the free agency tracker that Dan Arestia has up on his website. It's very useful. You see everyone who is a free agent, if they're on a designated roster list, and then if they've signed a new contract with who and through when. Just looking at some of like the defensive free agents out there. Not saying these guys are leaving their current teams or whatever, but it's interesting to kind of just look at like Graham Hosick is a free agent going into this offseason. You have guys like both Bryce Young and Cade Van Raphorst are free agents. CJ Costabile is a free agent. Jared Newman is a free agent. Johnny Surdick, he's on the military list, but he is a free agent. And I mean, let's also put this into perspective with the Pat Cav trade. Logan Wisnauskas is a free agent. So he could just walk if they don't re-sign him and then decide to trade him. But you also have guys like, Chris Sabia is a free agent. Jake Richards a free agent. Ben Randall is a free agent. So like there's guys out there too. If the Outlaws want to try to swindle away somebody, say if Mike Manley decides to retire or Jesse Bernhardt walks in free agency, there's some moves that can be made in free agency as well as the draft. The other Outlaws free agents, Deej, too, because we mentioned them when we were talking about. Justin Anderson is a free agent. Matt Costin, Dylan Gregar, free agents. Eric Law is a free agent. Mike Manley, technically a free agent as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of roster filling that they're going to have to do as well. And now that the Outlaws don't have that draft pick, they got to look to try to retain some of these guys too, as well as figuring out, okay, do we want to re-sign Logan? Do we want to re-sign him and trade him? Like there's definitely a lot of moving parts to this Outlaws team still to be determined, but I think going and getting Pat Cav was huge, and they'll figure out, like, defense is the one thing that we've talked about for the past couple of years with Chrome/the Outlaws that they were going to have to eventually address, because both Mike Manley and Jesse Bernhardt were getting older, and your only young defenseman was JT Giles Harris, and he's starting to hit his like prime years now. He's 26, I believe. So I mean, defense is definitely the one thing that the Outlaws are going to have to look at and address this offseason for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of moving pieces here, but I think they're moving pieces towards success. There's nothing here that I wouldn't work with. There's nothing here that makes me say they made a bad decision. Just a lot of decisions to be made over the next couple of months to try and put together the best possible roster they can for the 2025 season. And I think they're going to have a very good season, one that is at least as good as it was last year, if not better, because they've only made progressions, in my opinion. But obviously, we have to wait to see that on the field, and some of these moves may actually turn out to not be what they needed because of how they gel on the field. A lot of things look good on paper and then not turn out to not be what they think they would. So I will hold that for the time being, but I think they are moving in the right direction for where they want to be headed.
100%. So shout out to everybody who left us a voicemail. Leave us a voicemail whenever you want. Speakpipe.com/OTBLaxPod, and we'll react to your voicemails whenever you leave them. A little bit of roundup too with some extensions that happened this week too for some pending free agents. Speaking of the Boston Cannons, Marcus Holman signed a 1-year extension through 2025. Matt Campbell also today, as we record this on Friday, signed an extension through 2027. So he's locked up the same amount of time as Ethan Rahl. And Tim Muller signed an extension through 2026 with the Maryland Whipsnakes. And then our guy, I want you to put the word out there that we back up. Kieran McCardle signed through 2026 with the Philadelphia Water Dogs. Very stoked for Kieran. to be back, and I'm sure the Water Dogs are stoked to have the captain back. He's back where he belongs. He looks good in purple. Any thoughts on the extensions there, Deej? 4 guys that it makes sense for them to be with those teams through and through.
Yeah, I think it's just more teams locking down their best players to look at making a run for, a PLL championship. The teams are starting to figure out you lock down your guys and you bolster around that. I mean, that's just the formula for sports everywhere, and the PLL is following that. So that's what I like to see, is that there are guys who are not only are teams, committing themselves and devoting themselves to players for an extended period of time, but the players are more than eager to sign those contracts and devote themselves back to that team for that same time period, and are ready to really, go out and give their best for whatever team it is that they're suiting up for. I think that is going to pay dividends down the road, and that's the important part, is that free agency is really starting to blossom as it picks up over the next few years.
Last bit here before we get into our final Wings Media Day interviews. Did you see this Cole Kastner story?
Yes, I did.
So for anybody that missed it, Cole Kastner, our guy Cole Kastner, follows the pod. He got the University of Virginia lacrosse team out of practice on January 18th because the team is going to road trip to UNC Chapel Hill to watch Cole play basketball for Stanford. That's so sick.
Yeah, that's it. And the funny thing is, like, he didn't call and ask coach. Coach didn't set it up for them to go. Like, Tiffany said that like 6 or 7 dudes are like, "Hey, I ain't gonna be there because I'm going to see my boy Kastner." And he's like, "Hey, you know what? I guess we're all going to see Cole then." They pretty
Fuck
much
it, we'll do it live.
They pretty much just bullied him into it. Like, look, coach, you can run us or whatever when we get back, but we're going. So
That's
it is
so
what it
funny.
is. And I think that's what not only lacrosse but sports are about. But lacrosse does it differently. Is you really bond with the guys that you play with or you spend time with, and you really begin to spend long periods of time with each other and enjoy that, and you want to be there to celebrate them at every moment. I mean, we're a great example of that. I've spent 10 days at your house, and it's just like this game has brought us together, and has given us a reason to want to be there for each other in every possible fashion. I mean, there's times where I'm sure you would have wanted to be here for certain games I've coached, and like I've expressed interest in finding a way to get out to a Buna play so I can experience the work you put in there. Those are parts of what this sport brings you, is bonds that you want to keep as tight as you possibly can for a long time. And part of that is skipping out on commitments elsewhere to go and show support for your homies, which is what Virginia Lacrosse is going to be able to do in January.
It's gonna be so sick. Like, I hope that game is like, it's got to be on some sort of broadcast. It's gonna be so funny when like everyone, it's like normal people just watching the game, lacrosse fans trying to find the UVA lacrosse team in the stands.
I don't think it's gonna be hard.
That's so we got to get Cole on the show now that college basketball is up and going. That'd be a fun little crossover.
Yeah, it would,
especially since we got the scoop on why the Redwoods drafted him in the first place.
I wonder if he's going to play MCLA now that he's been. Well, he is okay to play.
It wouldn't surprise us. Nat said it too.
For Stanford's club team,
Ricky was doing the same thing.
Well, Ricky was just out there practicing. They wouldn't let him play, but he was like, "Hey, no, I'm trying to play. Y'all gonna let me play?"
That's so funny. So yeah, thank you guys for leaving voicemails. Again, speakpipe.com/OTBLaxPod. It's linked in every podcast description. Leave us a voicemail whenever you want. We'll react to them whenever you leave them. But before we get into our NLL season preview volume 1, we do have 3 more Wings Media Day interviews with new Philadelphia Wings goalie Nick Damude, Philadelphia Wings superstar Mitch Jones, and new Philadelphia Wings defenseman Connor Sellars. It is brought to you by our awesome merch partners at PHI Apparel Company, the best merch in the game. You want to stand out in the crowd. with their designs for all throughout the NLL season, PLL season, college lacrosse season. Rep OTB when you're doing it. Guess what, guys? Mitch Jones said it in our interview. It made the cut. He's got an OTB hoodie, and he's going to be wearing it. And hopefully, we get a Wings photographer to get him rocking that hoodie. Be like Mitch Jones. Get your OTB merch and apparel. And if you're a Philadelphia sports fan, you can gear up with their awesome Philly sports designs as well. Click the link in the description or go to phiapparel.co. And when you go to checkout, type in code underground. That's code underground for 10% off your next merch order. Get 10% off phiapparel.co with code underground off your next merch order and stand out in the crowd with PHI Apparel Company. Now, without any further ado, here is Nick Damude, Mitch Jones, and Connor Sellars from Wings Media Day on the Outside the Box podcast. All right, everybody, we are here at Philadelphia Wings Media Day and joined by a new goalie for the Philadelphia Wings, Nick Damude. Nick, welcome to Philly, first of all. And just what's the excitement level, finally here at the facility and kind of taking it all in? Obviously, you've been here as a visitor before, but what's the excitement level being here as a Philadelphia Wing now?
Well, happy to be here first and foremost, but pretty excited. I think I know the coaching staff pretty well, and obviously I know a bunch of the players on the team, so I think we're building towards something special here, so I'm pretty excited to be here.
How much does it kind of ease the nerves a little bit for you as a player and just as a person, too, coming into a new environment when there's also 6 other guys along with you that you were on that PCLC team together, and Tracy Koleski also coming in with you as well? How much does that kind of just, ease some things out in a new environment?
Yeah, it definitely makes it easier, some familiarity with teammates and obviously TK behind the bench, but especially goalie perspective, those guys have played in front of me. They know my style. I know their style. So it's obviously a little difficult sometimes when you go to a new team, learning everyone's playing styles and how to play with each other. So it's going to help a lot having those guys.
You talk about having guys playing in front of you, to have, Connor Sellars and Liam Patton coming along for this ride to Philly again. And Liam's obviously played here in the past as well. To have those 2 guys in front of you, but also now, a guy like Alex Pace, a guy like Ryan Wagner.
Yep.
How excited are you to have this defense in front of you and kind of have, a scrappy unit with 2 guys that you're familiar with, 2 guys you've seen from the opposite side of the bench and knowing how they play? What's the excitement level of the defense in front of you?
Pretty excited. I think this might be one of the best defenses I've played in front of. So, that's defense. Obviously, they make goalies look good. So, the better they can make me look, the better we're going to do. So, but yeah, just pretty excited. Obviously, I played with Alex Pace actually in St. Catharines. So I know him pretty well. I know his playing style, and he's a great player. So having him and his leadership too that he brings to the team is going to be big.
What's it like, coming into a team where, the Wings last year, obviously not the season that they wanted to have, kind of underperformed with a roster loaded with talent, the 7 of you from Panther City coming in as well, and then you had the number 1 overall pick in Brennan O'Neill. Just looking at this roster, how excited does it have you, and how much are you itching to get out on that floor December 1st in San Diego, and then obviously here for that home opener with just a roster that is loaded top to bottom? Yeah,
it's exciting. I think as soon as any season ends, you're itching to get right back to it. There's obviously unfinished business. On my end, on Philly's end, I think on everybody's. When you don't win a championship, that's what everyone wants. That's where everyone wants to be at the end of the year. So, and I think you can't do that without making playoffs. So, that's first and foremost. Have a good regular season, make the playoffs. Anything can happen. So I'm pretty excited. The teams, I think all the right steps were made this offseason, and I'm pretty excited. I think we're going to do something special.
Like I mentioned, you've been here as a visitor before. How excited are you to have, 10,000 plus raucous Philly fans cheering for you rather than, bantering and coming at you as a visitor?
Yeah, it's been Philly's always been one of my favorite places to play. I've always been a guy who tries to feed off of any type of energy, negative energy, and the fans here are great for loving their team and great for giving it to away teams. So that's going to be great to have on my side and, have some support from the fans and everything. So that's going to be awesome. Hopefully we're going to feed off that all year.
As a new player coming into a city, what's kind of, your introduction to the fans of your play style as a goalie and what they can expect from you, kind of being that anchor back there for this team?
Yeah, I think I've always I've tried to be consistent. I think that's the best thing and biggest thing you can do as a goalie is be consistent, so your team knows what they're going to get out of you every single night. They know they're not getting a Jekyll and Hyde who's going to show up one game and the next game he's not. So I try to do that every game. I'm a competitor. I hate losing, hate losing. So I'm going to do anything I can to try and win any game that I'm in.
How excited are you to play alongside somebody like a Blaze Reardon, Mitch Jones, and Joe Restare? It's those three, kind of being the big three on the offensive side of the ball, to have those three on your side and knowing what they bring to the table, not only talent-wise but leadership-wise as well.
I mean, only having them score on me in practice is going to be nice, so the world can't see it. They're great players, and I've heard everything I've heard. They're great teammates too, so I'm pretty excited. Obviously the game of lacrosse is to outscore your opponent, so the more they can score, the better we're going to do, and they score a lot, so I'm pretty excited.
What's kind of the expectation for you coming into, a new city, new environment as well, kind of giving that first impression to the fans and to this organization of what you bring to the table and your expectations for this season as well?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and we talked about a lot when I was in Panther City, was a trust. With a new team, I have to earn everybody's trust on this team. Obviously I've played with some of them before, but that doesn't change anything. I got to earn the trust of my teammates so they know they can trust me. Whenever they make a mistake, I'm going to bail them out. I make a mistake, they're going to bail me out. And same with the fans. I got to earn their trust. There's only one way to do that, and it's to perform. So that's what I'm going to try to do.
When you have, Brennan O'Neill on this team and bringing in the number 1 overall pick and the expectation that comes with that, how excited are you to kind of see his game develop at the box lacrosse level? Obviously, he's got a ton of field experience from college and pro, but to bring him into the box game and see what he's going to be able to do with his size, his skill sets, how juiced up does it have you to have Brennan O'Neill on this team?
Yeah, I mean, I just met him for the first time maybe an hour ago, and he's absolute unit of a human being. He's big, he's strong, which is going to be perfect for him, his translation from field to box. And from everything I've seen a lot of his college highlights, a lot of his PLL stuff. He's an unreal player, and he thinks the game real well. So in box, obviously, it gets a bit faster. It's a bit faster pace. So with his IQ and his size and everything, I think he's going to do just fine. Can do real well for us.
What's the excitement level of just being able to call Philadelphia like home base for you? You obviously as a visitor love coming to Philly and feeding off the fans, but to be able to call Philly, your home barn and make this, your new home city, how excited are you for that?
Yeah, pretty excited. Actually, I got drafted in Philadelphia this one in 2018. It was held in Philly, and that was the year I got drafted. So Philly's always had a little bit of a special place in my heart, and now being able to call it home, being closer to home, everything, it's awesome. I can't wait to step on the floor that first game.
And how excited are you to play for Coach Rubel? Defensive-minded head coach as well. To have him behind the bench, his first go at being a head coach as well. How excited are you to play for him?
Yeah, Rubes is awesome. He coached me in Junior A. He was my D coach for St. Catharines, so I know him a bit well than probably some of the other guys. His style is he's like me. He's a competitor. He wants the best out of all of his players. So anytime you get a coach like that, it's easy to go to war for him, and it's easy to try and perform and do your best night in and night out. So it's really exciting, especially him getting that step up in the head coach role. I think that's awesome for him, and that's on us to perform for him.
Nick, we're stoked to have you in Philly. I'm excited to watch you back there anchoring this team, and go Wings, man.
Yeah, excited. Thank you.
All right, everybody, we are here at Philadelphia Wings Media Day, and joining us now is the one and only Mitch Jones. Good to have you in person, man. It's been a while since we've had you on the show. Last time you were still in Vancouver, and it was over the phone, so it's good to have you in person and back in another season for the Philadelphia Wings, man.
Good to be here in person. Good to be back in Philly. Just made the trip in yesterday. Had about 3 hockey bags full of stuff moving across country. Made sure to pack my hoodie, though.
There we go.
That was, not going to lie, it was on the border, but it made it in.
Perfect.
So we got it.
talk to me about the excitement, coming into this season, a lot of new faces on this team, and obviously last season didn't go as planned, but when you bring in so many new guys that are so talented to a group that is already littered with talent, how excited are you for the season?
Yeah, I think, every preseason brings that level of excitement, right? Everyone's optimistic, but I think just being in the league a long time and seeing the guys we brought in and the talent level that's in our room and the new young legs that we are bringing in, a ton of reasons to be excited about the season. For myself, just feeling great, had a great summer, and ready to keep pushing here and ready for the season.
When you see Brennan O'Neill come into this team as the number 1 overall pick and just the excitement around that, what excites you about getting to play with him and seeing what he brings to the table? Obviously a lot from the field game, but getting him involved with this team in the box game.
Yeah, a whole bunch of things, man. I think he's very mature for his age, very mature for a guy coming in as a rookie, and he's played a lot of lacrosse, a lot of high-level lacrosse. Just actually met him in person for the first time today, and he's a unit. He's a guy who's going to bring athleticism, bring skill, bring a lot to the table for us. I think me and Blaze are super excited to have him on the left side there. I like to make the jokes. I'm like, oh, he'll be the third most athletic guy. Well, the most athletic left side in the league. But I think obviously he's going to bring a lot of things for us, and looking forward to working with him.
When you have 7 guys coming in from PCLC and they were a playoff team 2 years in a row, to bring in that much playoff experience littered across the roster now, how much does that factor into just knowing what the expectation is going to be this year?
Yeah, it's nice to bring in guys who have been there, done that, played in playoff games, played in this league, been successful. A few guys I'm excited about, just kind of personal ties, is Connor Sellars and Tony Malcolm. Grew up around, actually lived at Connor's house during my junior lacrosse days, and then grew up around Tony and played with him in Buffalo. So really excited for those guys. And kind of every guy we brought in from that team is a playoff caliber guy on our roster who's going to come in, earn their spot, and do their job for us.
How fun is it, coming in now? It's like you're almost one of the vets on this team in particular, and you've been here for a short time, but it feels like you've been here forever.
Yeah, I think obviously the first year was a bit of a whirlwind. Last year, like you said, we underperformed, but I was able to kind of get my footing and be in Philly the whole year and all that good stuff. And then this year, kind of fresh start with some new faces, with a little bit more loaded roster, and really looking forward to it.
When you guys have the talent that was on the roster last year, and when a season doesn't go your way, but knowing that you add the number 1 overall pick, you add 7 guys from a former franchise with that playoff experience, like we mentioned, and just looking at this roster top to bottom, seeing the talent on it, how does it match up with some of the rosters you played on in your career, and just the talent level that's coming in? How excited do you think the fans are going to be to see you guys out on the floor together?
For sure. I think we're excited to see the fans. It's always awesome getting in here. I think one of the things that really hurt us last year, is not being successful at home. So that's going to be a point of emphasis, I'm sure. Just being in this league a long time as well. Like I watch a lot of video. I look at a lot of stats and different things like that. The margin from being a great team and being a good team and being a below average team is not that far off, right? You look at things like goal differential and power play goals and conversions and all that stuff. We're a little bit off in a few areas, but you kind of shore up some of those areas, and there's no doubt in my mind that we're right there.
You guys have a new anchor in the back, with Nick, and what's the excitement level to have, a new goalie in there? Obviously Higgy was here for a while and was an anchor for you guys, but a new face back there. What's the excitement level of having a young, rising star goalie back there now?
Yeah, sad to see Higgy go. He was the backbone of our team for years, and I've played summer ball with him, but it's part of the business. Super, super excited to see Nick come in. Been a fan of his since he came in the league as a young goalie, and still a young goalie, but with some success under his belt. Played against him this summer, got to know him a little bit. He's an awesome character and awesome guy to have in the locker room. So I think he's going to kind of step right in and be that backbone and help us kind of take the next step.
First year head coach coming in this year too with Ian Rubel. He's obviously been here, but what's the discussions like, talking with him as he gets set for his first year as the head coach of this team?
Rubes is good. Rubes is, like you said, been around for a long time, not just here, but in the game of lacrosse as a player, as a coach, and everything in between. I'm excited to see kind of how he steps into the head coach role. Obviously going to be a little different for him, dealing with kind of everything, not just the defense, but everything that the head coach has to deal with. I know we got some fitness testing. I think that's going to be a point of emphasis for him. He's a guy who's still in shape, and I think that's going to be really good for us.
And when you have the 7 guys from PCLC coming in, and then a little bit down the line, TK's coming back, what's the excitement level of having him in the building and knowing what, he's capable of coming as a head coach for the past 3 seasons, and he obviously was here previously, so to have him back in the building, what's the excitement level there with what he brings on the offensive side of the ball for you guys, and kind of just figuring out how to move the ball around with the talent on this roster?
Yeah, that's always the key is, using your talent, and so everyone's kind of creating for each other and meshing together. TK, he was an excellent player. He's been an excellent coach in this league. I've had a few good conversations with him. You can tell he really thinks the game and is passionate about it, and I think brings a little fire that maybe we're missing. So I think that'll be good for us to get a kick in the ass sometimes and have a strong leader up there that's going to kind of direct us to everyone together.
I was looking at the schedule too, and last year's schedule, parts of it weren't kind. You had 4-game road trips at points, and I think the longest you guys have this year is 2 games back-to-back on the road, to kind of have an easier schedule in terms of travel and not so much, length away from the Wells Fargo Center and, being able to be at home a lot more consistently. How nice is that going to be for this season and just the fluidity of the team?
For sure, yeah. We got I've looked at the schedule. We got a couple circled already. The home opener with Vegas coming to town is a huge one for us to get off on the right foot at home. A schedule is a schedule. You're going to run into your ups and downs, and not everything's going to always go your way. But looking at it, it's pretty good for us. We start on the road, get a couple nice road trips and team bonding under our belt, get that one before Christmas, home opener, and then hopefully we can kind of roll from there.
What's the excitement level for you to run back out on that floor again, this season, and hearing those fans going crazy and just knowing what the expectation is for you guys personally in this locker room and what the expectation the fans have for you as well, coming off a subpar season like you mentioned and going into this year with the talent and knowing that the goal is the playoffs. The goal is to go on a run in the playoffs and inevitably be hoisting that trophy at the end of the year.
For sure, yeah. I get updates on the message boards and the Facebook groups and all that from my dad, so I know what the expectations are, and I love it. The more pressure, the better. I think I played a little bit less summer ball across this year. Going back to last year, I kind of came in limping around and had a tough injury at the Man Cup, but this year, feeling fresh, feeling ready to go, having a lot of fun, just training and doing that kind of stuff. I get to hang out with Brennan O'Neill during November, December, kind of get acclimatized to him and see his routines, and I think it's just really exciting going into the season.
What's kind of the excitement and the intrigue around another season of Blaze kind of being the face and the leader of this team, and obviously a captain last year, and kind of being the guy that leads you guys forward?
Yeah, Blazer's a super easy guy, not only to get along with, but to follow and to bounce ideas off of and to work with. Just the kind of guy you want in your locker room. And I think, especially with a lot of new guys coming in, he's going to be a guy that they gravitate to and that he helps out and they help him in return. So I think we're in good hands there.
Mitch, we're stoked to have you back in Philly again and looking forward to another great season, man.
Let's go. Go Wings.
All right, everybody, and we are back here at Philadelphia Wings Team Media Day, and joining us now is new member of the Philadelphia Wings, Connor Sellars. Connor, first of all, welcome to Philadelphia, man. Happy to have you. Good to see you in a Wings jersey for the first time. Talk to me about your excitement level, coming to a new environment, new city, and how much does the nerves kind of get alleviated knowing that 6 of your former teammates with PCLC and TK are also along for this ride with you with a new team?
No, I think it helps a lot. Obviously, familiar. Played. This is I think about my 8th or 9th year in the league here, so familiar playing in Philadelphia. Fans are great, so it's actually going to be nice to actually play with them on your side for once, and actually enjoy the atmosphere and the crowd on your side. But I think just having the familiarity with a lot of the guys from Panther City and having TK and just knowing a lot of the guys, played lacrosse kind of with Mitch before. I've played with Joe Rezateris as well. I'm familiar with Paul Day, so familiar with a lot of the guys on the team and going from there. So I think coming in, being able to know about half the team, it makes it easier, and it eases the burden of coming into a new team and trying to fit right in where some of the guys already. So it helps ease the nerves and everything like that. And I think it also helps the team get going quicker and easier because you're going to gel in a lot quicker.
I've talked about it on our podcast a ton since the Wings came back in 2018. I said this team needs, an enforcer, big body defenseman right in the middle there to kind of direct traffic and be the guy that puts fear in opponents. And when I saw you were coming to Philadelphia, I was doing backflips in our studio, and I was overwhelmed with excitement that you were coming here. I'm a big fan of your game, and knowing that, this team is going to have you back there, teammate and former Philadelphia wing, now current wing, Liam Patton, and then guys like Alex Pace, Ryan Wagner, and just the toughness and the grittiness all in front of Nick Damude, who you've played with for the past couple of years as well. How excited are you to play alongside this defensive unit and in front of Nick again?
I'm excited for it. I think we have like a lot of good pieces, familiarity, as you mentioned already. I think we have 4 or 5 Panther City kind of D guys coming in here and helping, and especially playing in front of Nick. Nick, obviously, as a D guy, having a good goalie and everything like that makes your job a lot easier, right? It kind of helps and hides some of your mistakes. So playing in front of that, it makes it easier. And then I think that's something we're going to pride ourselves on, and just kind of be big, physical, kind of tough to play against, and go from there, and kind of be able to use our defense as our backbone of the team and kind of get energy that way.
When you have a team like this Wings roster, who last year everyone would tell you we underperformed, we didn't meet the standard that we knew we were capable of, and you bring in not only the 7 of you guys from Panther City, but you also bring in the #1 overall pick in Brennan O'Neill. How excited are you to watch his game develop and to have him on your side, and being able to watch his game grow? Obviously he has a ton of field experience, but to see his box game grow and play alongside guys like Blaze Reardon, like Mitch Jones, and kind of learn from them as he goes, and be a part of this team and be a huge part of it.
Yeah, I think like just having Brennan come in is big for the team. He's a big physical body that's going to help us on offense and go from there. And to be honest, he's as a lefty O guy, he's going to learn from 2 really good players and 2 different styles of players with Blaze and Mitch, right? He's going to learn kind of Mitch controlling the ball and kind of running the offense and kind of demanding the ball, but then also through Blaze, where Blaze is going to help in setting the picks and kind of the bang around the offense and do some of that and kind of get people open and work in the gritty areas. And I think it's going to be a good opportunity for him to learn from both and learn from a lot of that offense. A lot of the offense, there's some veteran guys and also some young guys, so there's going to be guys that he can learn from. And obviously his skill set coming in, watching him play in field lacrosse and watching him play in college and stuff, I think it's a good fit. He's a big body that will help, and I think just the opportunities he's going to have to learn and grow on the offense, especially under TK, myself playing under him, and just the last couple of years, right? I've learned stuff, and I've been in the league for 4 years prior to that, right? So coming in as a rookie, I think it's going to be a good opportunity for him, and it's exciting to see like kind of where his ceiling is, because obviously at this point, as you mentioned, like he hasn't really played box lacrosse, so it's like everyone knows where the floor is, but no one knows where the ceiling is, right? And being the skill he is, like I think it's something that sky's the limit for him, right?
When you come into a new environment like this, and you've played in Philadelphia as an opponent and as a visitor, and what's the excitement level? Like you mentioned, you're excited to play in front of these fans, but kind of just anticipating what it's going to be like that first time you run out on the floor and have, the 10,000 plus raucous Philadelphia fans cheering for you this time rather than you being an opponent, and just delivering, your style of game and letting them know, hey, this is what the new standard for the Philadelphia Wings is going to be this year and moving forward.
Yeah, obviously I think our standard this year is obviously coming into the season. I think everyone's goal is win championship or bust, right? But there's only one team that can kind of win it at the end. So obviously, as you mentioned, like we're a lot of new guys coming in. So obviously our goal here in training camp coming up is to gel and get on the same page as quick as possible. Obviously 18 games is, some would say it's a long season, but at the same time it's quick and short. So you have to get gelling early. So I think just say to the fans, like, obviously be patient with us. We're going to get going, and obviously we're going to try to start on time and be the best we can. And obviously we're going to try to exceed expectations and go for a championship here. But I think just from the first game, it's going to be December 14th, right? And in the first home game, it's going to be nice to come in instead of getting booed for that by those 10,000 fans you're mentioning, actually getting a couple cheers and go from there. And obviously, like, playing in the league, this is probably going to be some of the biggest crowds that I'm going to have in my favor, and not just at road games, right? So I think that's going to be exciting. It's going to get the energy going and make it easier to play in some of those smaller environments and crowds. Sometimes it's hard to get your energy going and get going that way. So I think that's going to be something that is it's gonna be something we have no excuse of not having energy and coming out flat. That's something we're gonna have to pride ourselves on and making sure like it's a tough environment to play in.
You know, I was talking to Blaze earlier, and I said, you know, it's rare that as a team of this stature and this littered with talent, you get to bring in 7 guys who have playoff experience the last 2 years and bringing in veterans of this NLL game. How valuable do you think, you know, you 7 coming in, having that postseason experience the past couple of years, to bring that into this locker room and bring, you know, what it takes to get there and what it takes to win in the playoffs? How valuable is that for you guys to bring that into the guys who, you know, haven't been able to get there yet?
No, I think it's very valuable, right? You kind of know, like, obviously as a rookie with Georgia, I won the championship, and I was lucky to do that. And obviously, as a rookie, you kind of don't realize how hard it is. And now that I think I'm year 8 now, and haven't really even been back. So it's tough to be there. Been back to the playoffs like a few times, so you know how hard it is, and the little things that matter, and the little things that you have to preach. And it's not the little things that happen in playoff game 1, right? They start in game 1 of the regular season, and even in training camp, you got to start building those early and those good habits and keep going from there and just build on it and kind of progress from that.
You know, with so many new guys coming in and introducing yourselves to the fans, who's somebody that you think is kind of going to grab the hearts and the fandom that's coming in with you guys? Obviously, you want to say it's yourself for sure, but, you know, with your teammates and you guys kind of getting acclimated to Philly, who do you think's really going to take to this Philly crowd the most?
I think obviously all of us coming in kind of bring our own different skill sets and specialties. Obviously, I think Nick will probably bring Damude will probably bring the most. Obviously, that's how a goalie does it, right? Kind of big saves and making stops at the right time and going from there. So I think that's someone like the Philly fans will, I think, appreciate the most and go from there. Obviously, kind of a lot of us are on the back end and kind of banging around, but you have Tony in transition there that could get a lot of opportunities and kind of some transition goals. And then you also have Phil up front, right, and kind of banging around and doing some of that and getting into some of the hard, tough areas and getting some of those, as we call, garbage goals, right? Picking up those rebounds in front and doing that. And I think that's a big thing, and that will help. But I think to an extent, like, there's going to be things that everyone's happy with for every one of us. Obviously, even Burton, right? He's a veteran guy. He's been around, and he's a guy that will spark the crowd and kind of lay some big hits and throw some body and is physical to you guys as well. So I think you're going to get that from like me, Pat, and Burton. Foley and Melks are a little more like transition kind of finesse the speed guys, and then you got Phil kind of up there in front, and then you got Nicky kind of holding it back at the goalie side.
When you guys, you know, obviously find out you're coming to Philadelphia, and then, you know, time goes by and you see TK's coming, how excited were you to know that, you know, your head coach the past 3 years coming in now is going to be behind the bench with you in a new environment and coming back to a place he's familiar with as well? How excited were you to see that TK was coming back?
No, I was really excited for TK to come back. Obviously, the last 3 years in Panther City, I loved having him as a coach. He led us really well. I kind of strive to get the best out of all of us. Just not even on the floor, right off the floor as well, trying to get us in good habits, make sure we were a family and did all that. And we were a close-knit kind of group over in Panther City. Obviously, it was kind of tough how it folded, but in the outcomes right now, like being in Philly, it's been great for me, a great environment. I think just having him and being able to have that leadership that he brings as well, and the wealth of knowledge that he brings to the game as well, I think will help as well. And it's nice to just have a familiar face that you're used to in the coaching style.
And, you know, when you come into an environment, you've been here as a visitor before, and you kind of know what the Philadelphia fan expectation is for their teams. It's, you know, bring it every day, give us your best. How much do you feed off of fans when you're out there on the floor and knowing that they have an expectation for you as a player and you have an expectation for yourself to deliver to those fans?
I think with that, like, it helps, right? It helps you bring the energy, it helps you stay committed in everything else you're doing outside off the floor. Not necessarily, obviously, you're going to have to produce and you want to get everything, but it makes you do the little things and makes you want to grow the game and make sure you're committed to everything and you're worried about making sure you're in the best physical shape and make sure you're mentally prepared and physically prepared for the game. But it also gives you that boost of energy, right, when the crowd's roaring and cheering for you guys and you're running out in the tunnel. Like, obviously, as an opposing player, coming to Philly was one of the great I enjoyed it a ton because to an extent, like, the energy you get running onto the floor being booed is good energy, and it kind of gets you going in your game. You're like, okay, this is what we're here for, right? So obviously, knowing that and coming into an environment and that now that you're actually going to get cheered on and it's going to be even a louder cheer for you guys is definitely going to help a lot.
Well, Connor, we're stoked to have you in Philly. I'm pumped to have you here. Looking forward to watching you out on the floor and kind of, asserting your dominance for this Philadelphia Wings defense, and looking forward to a great season with you here, man.
No, appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for the time.
Shout out to the boys, Nick Damude, Mitch Jones, and Connor Sellars for hopping on at Media Day. And as we were recording, I was scrolling along and saw the Wings Media Day teaser on their Instagram, and somehow, some way, your boy made it in there. The Nick Damude interview made it into the hype video from Media Day, which is pretty sick to be included in one of those. So once again, big thank you to the Philadelphia Wings, Lauren Coranda, and the whole crew for having us at Media Day. And we are working on some big things with the Philadelphia Wings this season that I'm very, very excited about. But yeah, shout out to the boys for hopping on. It won't be the last time any of those guys are on the show. But Deej, it is upon us. It is that time of the year. It's NLL season preview time, and it is brought to you by our awesome partner at Buff. That's right, the official neckwear of Survivor. Buff is here to get you through the holidays. There's an easy way to shop for your favorite people this holiday season, and it is with our partners at Buff. Deej, I got to tell you, I'm sure you see it when you've been watching Survivor. Buff, that they are the best for protecting your face, your head, and just everything from the sun, the snow, the cold, the wind. Buff is the pioneer of multifunctional neckwear since 1992. They're manufacturing caps and neck gaiters designed for the outdoors and every day. Products are made from recycled materials and produced sustainably in Barcelona, Spain. Buff, genuinely, this is one of the coolest partners that we have because I have known about Buff since the year 2000, since I started watching Survivor, and it was just like, that's such a cool thing that they get this product to wear, on Survivor. And Buff has the holiday trail map for you to shop for your favorite people this holiday season. You can kind of go through the holiday map and see which Buff neck gaiter is the best for your people. The holiday trail map. Stay on track with perfect holiday gifts. And as the trail begins to climb and the excitement builds toward the peak of the season, it's time to gear up for winter adventures. Whether you're preparing for snow-covered hikes, cozy nights by the fire, or brisk city strolls, Buff has you covered with the best winter essentials. From warm beanies to versatile neck gaiters, their collection is designed to keep you comfortable, stylish, and ready for any cold weather escapade, or as I like to say, escapade. Let them be your guide as you navigate the perfect winter gifts for loved ones who seek warmth, adventure, and everything in between this holiday season. Click our link in the description and get on it. Shop for the holidays. It's right around the corner. It's crazy that Black Friday is 3 weeks from now. But get shopping and embrace the climb with Buff. Deej, the NLL season is also 3 weeks away. Face-off weekend, Black Friday gets it going, and we are going to have our first installment of 3. We're going to break down the NLL in 3 parts. It's the easiest way to do it. This week, we're breaking down Canada, the Canada teams in the NLL, previewing what they've got on deck. Kind of looking at where the Canadian teams finished last year. In terms of standings, in terms of postseason, we had just 2 of these Canadian teams make it to the postseason last year, and that was the Toronto Rock, who finished with the best record in the league at 15-3, and then the Halifax Thunderbirds were the 6th seed in the postseason last year, who finished 10-8. Granted, one of these teams is new to Canada, so they weren't technically classified there last year, but we've got 6 teams to break down, and that's the Toronto Rock, the Halifax Thunderbirds, Deej's Calgary Roughnecks, the Saskatchewan Rush, the Vancouver Warriors, and the new to Canada, formerly known as the New York Riptide, Ottawa Black Bears. Deej, which team do we want to start with? Do we want to start with the peak of Canada being the Toronto Rock?
No. No, I think we start with the newbies.
All right,
We'll
we'll
start with
start with
Ottawa.
the Ottawa Black Bears. A very talented roster, obviously known as the New York Riptide last season. They newly named Jeff Teat the first captain in Ottawa Black Bears history earlier this week. They've got a talented roster. I'll tell you that much. Their roster is loaded with talent. Some key players on this team. Jay Thornbert on the defensive side of things, Matt Marinier, who is a 6'6" behemoth on that defensive side. They signed Luke Magnan this offseason, friend of the pod, former Halifax Thunderbird. Justin Robinson, also with the team, Mackenzie Mitchell. They also have Callum Jones on that roster. Andrew Borgatti is back. But the big one, Damon Edwards, not back with the Ottawa Black Bears as of this moment. And there was reports earlier this year that he would not be re-signing with them. So that's another, guy to keep an eye on to see if he ends up playing this season. He's not on a roster as far as I know. But obviously the key contributors offensively, Jeff Teat, our guy Larson Sundown, Riley O'Connor, not the goalie, Jack Kelly, our guy Connor Kiernan. Nathan Grennan has made his way to Ottawa. He was with the Albany Firewolves last year, and he was with the Panther City Lacrosse Club prior to that. Josh Courier, our guy, the Jackrabbit, is with the Ottawa Black Bears this year. Taggart Clark is back for another season in Ottawa. They also have Corson Keeley. Jacob Dunbar comes over from San Diego. Their offense is super talented. They also have Liam Osborne, who keep him away from Bryce Young at all costs. Liam Osborne stands at the mighty height of 5'7".
Oh my!
But then you look at the back end. But before we look at the back end, their transition: Kevin Brownell back, Ron John, our guy, back again, John LaFontaine, and of course Kyle Matisse, Brent Noseworthy, Michigan man, right there for Deej. And guess who else? Guess who else is part of this team? Deej, Jake Stevens. Nasty little pickup for them.
I like that.
They also have Justin Tkachuk, Mitch Wild on that transition unit as well. And then their goaltending: Devlin Shanahan, Cam Dunkerley, and then the big move was obviously the trade with the Philadelphia Wings and acquiring Zach Higgins to be the anchor for this Ottawa Black Bears team. Big move. Obviously, one of the other big moves was during the season when they acquired Taggart Clark for that first-round draft pick that ended up being Brennan O'Neill with the Philadelphia Wings. So that's obviously going to be a thing forever, is that Taggart Clark and Brennan O'Neill are forever intertwined in each other's career trajectories in the NLL. What do you make, though, of this Ottawa Black Bears team? They're loaded with talent. They're young. They have an experienced goalie now, which they haven't had in their existence of the Riptide / Black Bears history. But I think they have a lot of pieces, and I think it's a lot of it is just going to depend on how they mesh together and how well that defense really comes together in front of Higgy.
Yeah, I think a big part of it is going to be the defense. The offense already looks good. I mean, you have Jeff Teat on your team, and there's plenty of guys around him, including Larson Sundown, Jake Stevens, and others who are going to be able to catch and finish, who are going to be able to create opportunities off the ball because Jeff Teat creates so much and demands so much attention. The offense will be able to do its piece. I think the middle of the floor transition and face-off is going to be huge for them. That's something the Riptide did better last year than they had the previous years before, but they're going to have to build on that and keep that up. I think Higgins is a great goaltender to start. You're going to get solid play from him between the pipes. But like you said, defense is where this team is going to have to make their money. If they're great on the defensive end, they're going to give a lot of teams problems.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Jeff Teat last year, led the league in goals, finished third in points. So you have that in your back pocket. You went 8-10 last year. They were fighting for that final playoff spot down to the wire. But I think the biggest thing is, and I've seen it, obviously with Higgy being with the Wings for so long, having a lockdown defense in front of him makes him that much better. But if you have to have Higgy standing on his head, eventually teams are going to be able to break that down because your goalie can only do so much. And when you look at this defense right now, while there's talent, I don't know if it's a fully solidified defense. It might feel like they're missing maybe one key contributor defensively. And, I've said that for years about the Wings, and now they finally have Connor Sellars to fill that void. They have pieces, and I think it's just about development. You want to see Matt Marinier take another step forward. You want to see, the veterans on this team, whether it be Mackenzie Mitchell, Jay Thornbear, Luke Magnan coming in, I think is a huge benefit on the defensive side of things, really helping them step up. You want to see Callum Jones take another step forward. I think a lot of the Ottawa Black Bears' success this season is going to be contingent on that defense showing up game in and game out because, like you said, the offense is there, whether it's Jeff Teat, Larson Sundown, Kyle Matisse, Riley O'Connor, Connor Kiernan, they have big dogs on offense. But if your defense and transition game aren't up to snuff, teams are going to expose that week in and week out.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough road for them if they're not able to bolster their roster or kind of mask some of those problems that they have and find other ways to support that. But realistically, they're young and they're in a new place, which could bring new fandom and some excitement to the game as well, which they do have to lean back on. Being in a new place that is expected to show out for you in a way that your last home didn't can provide a little extra spark.
And I think when you have a player of the magnitude of Jeff Teat, that does so much for a franchise, both on and off the floor. And I think Jeff being able to play in Canada is going to be awesome for him. And like I said, the stats speak for themselves from last year with 58 goals and 73 assists. Could Jeff Teat have more than 131 points this season? Absolutely. Especially with, the majority of the offense being back, and now you have an anchor of a goalie back there where you're not necessarily always trying to claw back and you can kind of play a little bit more freely than you have in years past because you have somebody who can stop opponents' offenses. But I'm very intrigued, and I'll be watching this Ottawa Black Bears defense in particular this year to see how that comes together and how they mesh and mold in front of Higgy to make his life easier. And if they do that, there's no doubt in my mind that this team can be a playoff team.
Yeah, I mean, I think playoffs will be tough because the league's just tough, and we saw it last year. There were some teams that took some hits early that affected them later on due to the unified standings, and I think that's going to be one of the tougher things about this for Ottawa is how do they handle things early on? If you're able to get a pretty decent start, you'll have a chance if you're playing good lacrosse in February and March. You'll have a chance to push for playoffs come April and May. But if you start off slow, we've seen it last year that those games will come back to bite you, and that is a fear that I have for the Black Bears is that they're not able to get off to a solid start, and then they're never able to really catch up from the slow beginning.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch them. I mean, their coaching staff is back too, which I think is big for them, obviously. And Rich Lisk is one of the best in the game from the front office perspective. So we'll see how it shakes out. I'm very intrigued by Ottawa this year. It's going to be a fun season for them, first year in Canada, and just seeing how it all shakes out. And like I said, their defense and transition game are the big. I don't, for lack of a better term, question mark. But we'll see how that plays out. And if they play better than expectation or kind of around expectation, I think Ottawa can be fighting for one of those, bottom playoff spots. I don't think they're necessarily in the same breath as a Toronto, as a Buffalo, and some of the other higher tier echelon teams right now, but they're getting there. And it's going to be fun to watch them and seeing how, Higgy performs with a new team. This is his third team since I've been covering the league. Obviously, he came from Buffalo and was backing up Matt Vince before he got to the Wings, and now he's with Ottawa. So we'll see how Higgy performs in front of this defense and see how Jeff Teat capitalizes as the captain of the Ottawa Black Bears. Who's a player that you're intrigued to watch from this team this year, Deej? Obviously Jeff Teat is going to be must-see TV every single week. But I think for me, it's another year of watching Larson Sundown. He really stepped into the spotlight for me last year and really elevated his game, and I want to see him take that next step alongside Jeff. And him and Jeff are so comfortable together. And I just want to see Larson's game just continue to improve. He's so fun to watch. And if you haven't watched Larson Sundown play lacrosse, you're missing out, because he's a wildly talented player that just flies under the radar and does such a good job for this team as just a contributing piece. And he doesn't have to be the guy, but does so well in his role that he can change the aspect of a game without question.
Based off what I've seen from this guy in the field game over the last 3-4 seasons, Jake Stevens, I think his style of play fits the backs game very well, especially for a team that is coming off of personnel losses and changes in the transition game where they do need some help. He's going to be a guy that's going to be able to push that pace for you, but is also going to be able to be a tough guy that can play solid defense. He's going to pick up loose balls, and he can provide a juice goal when you need it. Very excited to see how Stevens implements himself into this roster.
He kind of reminds me NLL wise, and obviously we always make that comparison that he is, Zach Currier, but I also think he can be similar to like what Jeremy Thompson does in the box game.
I don't know what his face-off skills are like, but
yeah, I think it can. Like if you need him, he's one of those guys that like Jake Stevens can do it all, and wouldn't shock me. If you need him to go down there and do it, he can succeed at it. So we'll see. Ottawa's going to be an intriguing team to watch this year for sure. Are they a playoff team? I think they're borderline. We'll see. Obviously, in a couple of weeks, Deej and I will predict our playoff teams, but Ottawa's going to be a fun team this year for sure. Definitely, I think on both of our radars is a potential league pass team for people. If you want to have a fun team to watch all year, Ottawa's going to be up there for sure. Let's go to my league pass team from last year, Deej, the Saskatchewan Rush. A fun team, a young team who got an influx of some new players. A lot of players returning as well. They got some players from the dispersal draft. The unfortunate part right now is Patrick Dodd's on the holdout list, so we'll see how that kind of shakes out. But I think one of the big moves of the offseason was Austin Shanks going to Saskatchewan from Halifax. We've always considered Saskatchewan and Halifax a rivalry, kind of a cross-Canada rivalry. That's a huge move for them. They obviously have Robert Church, Ryan Keenan back, Zach Mann's back, and I think he's only continuing to develop as an elite shooter in this game. Evan Messenger on that defense now, along with Bobby Kidd III. Mike Messenger is back, Connor McClelland, Jake Boudreau in that transition game, Adam J. Over there. Holden Garland obviously has been a staple for the Rush for years now. Matt Hosick is back for Saskatchewan. Keegan Bell is in Saskatchewan now on that offense as well. They're going to be a fun team again this year, and I don't know if they're a playoff team yet, but they are like one of those young teams that still have veteran offensive prowess, and their defense is a lot more solidified this year than it was last year. And I don't know. I'm very optimistic about what this Saskatchewan Rush team could be in 2024, 2025.
I think they surprised a lot of people last year. I think there were some times they even surprised us, and there were games where they won or they were in it that we didn't think they really had a chance. And there were some games that they flat out lost that we were like, yo, what is Saskatchewan doing? And I think they were one of the teams outside looking in. Obviously, I don't have any true inside news, but from the lack of what we heard coming from Saskatchewan, but the excitement that we still have from fans on a regular basis, I think they're one of the teams that really looked inside at themselves, went and looked in the mirror and was like, okay, what can we do in this building right now, to fix what we have going on.
And they brought Derek Keenan back down from the GM office, and he's co-head coach again.
Yep. And what else can we do? Or do we need to bring anybody else in? Do we need to get rid of who's here? What kind of schemes do we want to run? And I feel like so far from what we know of last year and the current roster and the moves they've made, they're in position to make a run this season to make the playoffs. And I would not be surprised to see them in the mix at the end of the season, but at the same stature. I could see them following a very similar vein to what they had last year and being a very up and down team. There are a lot of questions to be answered about the Rush.
Yeah, I mean, they went 8-10 last year. And for perspective, the Rochester Nighthawks made the playoffs at 8-10 last year with a -12 goal differential. The New York Riptide were on the outside looking in and finished 9th in the unified standings at 8-10 and had a -28 goal differential. The Saskatchewan Rush also went 8-10. Same record, home and road, that Rochester and New York had. All three of them 4-5, both home and road. So they were even across the board. But Saskatchewan finished with a plus goal differential. They finished +7 in their goal differential. They averaged 12.06 goals per game and gave up 11.67. They were literally like the Mendoza line. They were like even Steven almost across the board. And I think you add an Austin Shanks to this offense with Robert Church, it's going to alleviate Robert Church kind of having to play like superhero for this team, where in a lot of instances it was like Robert Church, Zach Mans, or nothing offensively for them. And then defensively, it would break down a lot because you're going up and down the floor and getting zero result, and you don't have time to kind of rest and reset after you score a goal. So I think adding those guys, adding a Shanks in, Mike Triolo being in the mix, that's going to be huge for them. And then you add Evan Messenger in, you add Matt Hosick into the mix with Holden Garland. Like, that's a big defense now. Holden Garland's 6'2", 198. Matt Hosick's 5'11", but he kind of stands like he's 6'1", 170. And then you add in Evan Messenger, who's 6'1", 205. That's a big boy defense right there. And Adam J, who's 6'3", 215. Like, to have that defense kind of bolstered up now, I think is going to be a huge benefit for the Saskatchewan Rush this year. And I think kind of the flip side of what we just talked about with Ottawa, Saskatchewan, it's all going to be about their offense humming and clicking together, and then their goaltending. We love Big Frank. He's a really good goaltender, but when he's off, offenses really find a way to capitalize. You have Hruska back as well, so you have very capable goaltending. It's just a matter of them clicking and being on. But then it's all on the offense too, to kind of really put it together and be capable of what we know they're capable of doing. When you finish below 500, but you have a plus goal differential, that tells me the offense was there. The defense was kind of lacking. The goaltending was a little lacking. You bolstered the defense now. You have the stars on offense. Let that come together. Saskatchewan can be really frisky this year and be fighting for a playoff spot down the line. And it wouldn't shock me if they are a playoff team.
Yeah, I'm just happy that my man's is coach, GM, owner,
Mr. Do-It-All.
Everything.
We got to get him on this show.
Please. Because I wanna pick his brain about it. Because, like, essentially me and him are the same person. I coach, I manage, I GM. I do all of the things he does as a Saskatchewan coach for my team. And I'm going bonkers, so I need to figure out why he isn't. Because he's doing it at a much larger level than what I am.
We have to absolutely, let me see. Yeah, we got to get Derek Keenan on this show because he literally he's listed as general manager / co-head coach, and then Jimmy Quinlan is co-head coach and associate general manager. So like those two are like conjoined at the hip. They are essentially like just one and the same. It's wild. We got to find a way to get Derek Keenan on the show because he seems like he'd be a fun chat for sure. Who's somebody you're looking forward to playing in Saskatchewan this year?
I think I gotta go with Shanks. I think I'm
I'm right
really
there with
excited
you.
to see how he fits into this offense. And I mean, you have Robert Church and Trey Mann or Zach Mans and a few others that are already there providing some spark. But to have a guy like Austin Shanks come into the offense and be there to provide some spark, I think spark indeed is what we'll get.
Yeah, I'm excited to see this defense play too. Like the defense is big; they're gonna be nasty, and seeing how they perform together is gonna be a ton of fun. Saskatchewan gonna be frisky. Could be another league pass team option this year, for sure. We got 4 teams left. Let's head to Vancouver, an interesting team this year. A lot of rumors swirling around them in the goaltending department, but Vancouver retained a lot of their guys. They're a young team. Let's not forget they have Peyton Cormier on this roster. I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to do some searching if he was in training camp for them. Jeff Cornwall added to this team in free agency. Another year of Owen Grant with this team, which is going to be a lot of fun. But Vancouver was one of those teams that, if they put it together, they could do a lot of damage. Last year wasn't their year down the stretch. Another team that caught fire in the second half of the season. They finished above 500 at home, but they finished 3 games under 500 on the road, had a -9 goal differential. They also went 8-10. They were that last grouping of, standings wise, teams 8 through 12 finished 8-10 last year. That's 5 teams in the league that had the same record. So there's a ton of tiebreakers last year with that. But Vancouver, another year of Kurt running the show. Obviously, the Christian Del Bianco rumors are always going to swirl until they are no longer swirling with Vancouver. But you look at this Vancouver team and they have talent. Kevin Crowley is back. They still have Keegan Ball on this team. Adam Charlambides was great for them last year. I think he's going to continue to progress. When you have a Peyton Cormier coming into the mix like that, we are all excited to watch him with this team. Riley Lowen is back again. Brad McCulley, who got traded there last year. So to have him another year in the offense, Reed Bowring is obviously a star for that team and does so much for them. And you add Jeff Cornwall to that defense that already has, Steph Charbonneau, Ryan Dilks, Tyson Kirkness, Brett Midsky. This defense is nice. And I think your biggest question with Vancouver is kind of just the goaltending situation right now. Goalies on the official team website, it's Connor O'Toole, which is a great name, and Aiden Walsh as your goaltender. Aiden Walsh, big boy, Deej, 6'4", 180, holding it down. Connor O'Toole, 6'1", 165. This team's going to be fun. I think they have a lot of pieces in place, and when you have such a great head coach in Kurt Malosky, who, coaches can only do so much in sports to affect wins and losses. Kurt's one of those coaches that can affect a couple wins here and there during a season. This team's going to be fun, and I like the young talent. Obviously, I'm a huge Kevin Crowley guy. That's my guy through and through. But I'm excited to watch Vancouver this year and watch them hopefully take that next step, finish above 500. They have a lot of pieces in place that if they just mesh as a team, it's going to be fun in Vancouver this year.
Yeah, I think Vancouver has a very good chance of kind of shocking some teams this year. They fell into that slump of first-year coach where there's a lot of new pieces. There's a new coach there, a new system, everybody trying to get their bearings with each other and with the system and how things will run. The fans have to get behind the new team and the new system. So I think all of that is smoothed out from the first year. Everybody feels comfortable. Everyone's happy to be there, and everyone believes in themselves and their coaching staff. That locker room believes in each other, and sometimes that's really all you need to take that next step and to be a very great program. So I think they're on the way to where they want to be, but could still find themselves in the middle of the pack throughout the season. But I think they're one of the more balanced teams. I feel like their roster is set up very evenly in how they want to attack the game or to be able to shift the game plan to whatever they may need at that moment. But they were just in a position where they were under new leadership, which brings about its own problems.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not even that it was a negative leadership. Like, it's just getting acclimated to the way Kirk coaches. And, Vancouver, for as long as I've been covering the league, was one of those teams that was kind of like a pushover. It was one of those teams that you circle and it's like, okay, we should win this game. This is a win on the schedule. Kirk coming in changes that whole philosophy, and I think it's just getting used to that coaching style and what he brings. And I know you don't want to hear this, but if it does end up happening, you add Christian Del Bianco to this roster. Look out. That's a massive boost on that back end for them. And that's no slight to the goalies on their roster. But when you add a Christian Del Bianco to this team, it makes you that much better and puts you over the expectations of what this roster could be. But as constructed right now, I think Vancouver, very much like Saskatchewan, very much like Ottawa, going to be frisky, going to be fun to watch. If you're an East Coast fan, it's a lot of late nights, but especially if Peyton Cormier plays. Like that's my player to watch on this team. If he is ready to go, I'm going to have to look that up right now to see if he was on their training camp roster. But if Peyton Cormier is playing for this team, they're going to be as close to must watch as possible because he is just such an exciting player, and we've seen him do it in summer box, and we've seen what he's done in the PLL. We saw what he did in college. He's just a blue chip player, especially with his box background.
I got to go with the Ballinator. Keegan Ball is a guy that I find very fun to watch. I find my eyes glued to finding 45 when I'm watching the Vancouver Warriors and just needing to know where he is on the floor and waiting for him to make that next play. He's a driving force of the Vancouver Warriors. When he has a good game, the Vancouver Warriors tend to have a good game, win or loss. If he's having a good game and they lose, it's a close game and they're in it and they have a chance to win it. And if they win, there's a good chance that he had a very good game. Keegan Ball is almost the life force of this team. So I'm really excited to see if he's able to have another very good year like he's had the last two. Really, he battled some injury a couple years ago, but he still has had two very good seasons the last couple years.
Peyton has been in camp, so Peyton Cormier is 100% playing for this team. And, I mean, they have 3 first-round picks in training camp with them right now. Jonathan Peshko, Remo Shinato, which, again, fantastic name, and Peyton Cormier. I mean, let's also look at this, like Peyton Cormier, Adam Charlambides, Kevin Crowley, Keegan Ball, Riley Lowen, Ryan Martell, Brad McCulley, Dylan McIntosh, Jonathan Peshko, Ryan Sheridan, like, that's a lot of fans would sign up to have that be their offense for their favorite team.
Yep.
I also want to add this into the mix because they tweeted this yesterday. Can we just appreciate potentially the best headshot of the season from Jackson Subak?
I mean, he ain't gonna give another one better than that. Man's a serving.
I do not want to run into him anywhere because hot damn, that is one of the best headshots I've seen from a player in a long, long time. Just fixing my camera there for the people watching on YouTube, but yeah, Vancouver's gonna be fun. I'm excited for them. They're gonna be a team that, like, if you want to do lacrosse after dark on the weekends, Vancouver Warriors are gonna be a team to definitely watch. Deej, let's go to the playoff teams from last year. Let's start with Halifax. They finished as the 6th seed. They went 10-8 last year, a plus 28 goal differential. They obviously lose some of the players we mentioned earlier. Austin Shanks, Luke Magnan, they are now gone, but they added Thomas Hogarth. They've added some free agents. They've added some rookies. They've got some guys coming back, like Randy Stotts. Cody Jamieson is back, obviously. Alex Q added to this defense. Graham Hossack is back. Jake Withers back. Nankan Thompson back. Ryan Terefenko, Colton Armstrong. The usual suspects are back with this team. Goa Abrams is in camp with them right now, who had one of the best saves during the
World Box
Championships on Lyle Thompson. But Halifax, they're an interesting team. They are truly one of those Jekyll and Hyde teams where they can look like the best team in the league one week, and then the next week we're scratching our heads being like, what the fuck happened? I think losing Shanks and losing Luke Magnan are tough, but they still have a ton of talent on this roster, and I think they can compete with the best of them. And you kind of supplement losing Austin Shanks by adding Thomas Hogarth to this team. Clark Peterson, as well as a rising superstar, has gotten better year over year. And when you have guys like Cody Jamieson and Randy Stotts, it's tough to count you out. Plus, you've got Bo Hunter back for another year, who I think he had a great rookie year last year. Dawson Theed is back on offense for them. I think the biggest thing is their defense is super young. You know, you have obviously Graham Hosick, you have Nankun Thompson back, Johnny Pearson is back, Max Wilson, but you have a lot of new faces on that defensive side of the ball. And you obviously have Warren Hill holding it down in cage, but the big question is going to be their defense and being able to sustain defensively against opponents. And they obviously in the box game and just in general, I think have one of the best face-off athletes on the planet in Jake Withers, and he does so much for them. Doesn't just take face-offs. We saw him scoring goals aplenty last year and gets those loose balls off the face-off and really is a menace out there. He's a do-it-all face-off athlete for them. But I think their biggest question mark is just the youth on the defense coming together and being able to perform at a high level for what the expectation is going to be for this Halifax team, which is obviously for the past couple of years, it's been win a championship.
Yeah, win a championship and nothing short. They've been trying to win a championship for the last couple of years, and they don't want anything but that, which is a tough position to be in as a team, because you always feel like you have enough, but then again, you feel like you don't at the same time, which is a very tough position to be in. And if you look at it, they have had enough, but not enough at the same time the entire time. I think the big thing for them is consistency. They just have to find a way to be consistent, play the same style of ball week in and week out, and know what you're getting out of yourselves week in and week out, and focus on the controllables. I think there's times where they get lost in the things that they can't control, and then it forces them out of playing their game. And they have to play their game and lean on their strengths. The strength of this team is your home field advantage. When you're at home, you got to win games because people hate coming to the nest, and there's a reason they hate coming to the nest is because it's hard to play there. So you have to use your home turf advantage and win games in your home stadium. And their offense is insanely skilled, and you have to take advantage of having that. And I think they're on the alliance of having two of the better goaltenders in the league between Warren Hill and Goen Abrams. Use them to your advantage as well. Put them in positions to be successful goaltenders and then get out in transition. If they're able to do those three things, they're going to have a successful season.
Yeah, I'm excited to see kind of how things come together for them. Obviously, Mike Corsi, friend of the program, one of the best coaches in the game, and he's another one of those coaches that can shift, a 1, 2, 3 win stretch for you just by his decision making in a game for you. So yeah, this is going to be a big year for Halifax. They still have a lot of the veteran guys back, but they are, signaling that like, hey, we are getting younger. We're bringing in an influx of youth to this team, and we'll see how it shakes out from there. I think my player to watch this year is Bo Hunter and Cole Kirst. Watching those two take another step forward this year is going to be so fun to watch. They were both exciting as all hell for this team last year, and I think it's only going to be amplified this year. And then seeing how Thomas Hogarth plays alongside Randy Stotts and Cody Jamieson is the veterans on that offense.
Yeah, Hoagie's the guy I'm looking to watch here. I think him coming over from Rochester is going to be interesting, and how he implements himself into the squad and how they look to use him and his skill set is going to be one of the eye-popping things this season, because that could go very good or very bad. They could use Thomas Hogarth in the correct way and propel their offense upward, or he could get lost in the sauce and in the shuffle and be kind of on the outside looking in a position where he should be one of the top players in the league.
100%. Halifax, they're a perennial playoff team, and I think it's one of those things that it would surprise us if they're not a playoff team this year. Things would have to go disastrously wrong for them with the talent that they have across the board. So we'll see how they improve on what last year I think they would say was a disappointment of a season where they go 10-8, they finish as the 6th seed and didn't really do too much in the playoffs, and I know they want to build on that for sure. Let's go to the top dogs in Canada and in the league last year. It's the Toronto Rock. Last year, finished top of the table, 15-3 on the season, but that kryptonite was the Buffalo Bandits across the board the entire year. Their losses were to the Buffalo Bandits, and they had that one loss to the Calgary Roughnecks as well. Playoffs came to a halt because of the Buffalo Bandits, but they finished with the best record in the league, 15-3, 7-2 at home. They were 8-1 on the road last year. They finished with a plus 49 goal differential, which was the best in the league by far. 12.11 goals for, 9.39 goals against, which was also the best goals against average by 0.5. They're a scary team no matter how you dice it up. You look at this roster, Marley Angus, a young talent, Chris Boucher, Chris Corbeil, Dan Craig, Josh Dahlwick, Mitch DeSnew is back. They added Elijah Gash in the dispersal draft. Treasy on the mend and going to be back this year. And I mean, their offense speaks for itself from top to bottom. One of the best offenses in the league. And that includes Challen Rogers as a transition player, but he does so much for them offensively. You look at, like I said, Chris Boucher, you look at Dan Craig, Josh Dahlwick, Zach Kearney, Mark Matthews back for another year, Sam Parent getting added to this team, Tom Schreiber, Corey Small. Their defense, Mitch DeSnew, Elijah Gash, Treasy, Billy Hofstrasser, Josh Jubenville, Brad Cree, Justin J. Martin, Jordan McKenna. Are they the best team in the league again this year, Deej? Like it's hard to argue against because they still have so much talent on this roster, and they added even more talent to this roster. And we didn't even mention that, like, it's unfortunate that we don't know when or if Tom Schreiber is going to be able to play this year, obviously from his PLL injury. But if they do get Captain America back at some point during this season, look out. Like, it's going to be a very fun team to watch. They are, obviously the Bandits are the team to beat because they are the defending champions, but the Toronto Rock, for a lot of teams, are the team to beat. That is a gold standard team year in and year out. They are always performing. I find it hard to argue that they would not be a top 4 team in the league this year.
I mean, at the end of the regular season, they're definitely going to be a top 4 team. They will definitely be a top 4 team. I don't think there's a lot to talk about here. This is plain and simple championship or bust. Like, this is one of the rosters you look at and it's championship or bust. They're simply that good, whether they have Tom Schreiber or not. I think Tom Schreiber obviously elevates their chances largely to be one of the very best teams in the league and to possibly win a championship. But the only thing they really have to look at is staying healthy and getting over the hump. You beat Buffalo, I think you're putting the NLL Cup in their hands. If they beat Buffalo, or they don't have to play Buffalo, I should put that out there too. Unified standings could have it be that way. Excuse me. If they don't have to play Buffalo, or if they beat Buffalo in the playoffs, just give them the cup.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the one thing that has held them between raising the cup and not, has really been Buffalo. So if they're able to stay away from them or to just flat out beat them, I don't see anyone else who's going to be able to do it.
Yeah, they're a nasty, nasty team, and obviously not having Tom Schreiber off the rip is unfortunate, just because of how prolific he is. We all know this. But if they do get him back at some point, like, look out, because they're going to be a force. Who's your player to watch from Toronto this year? We also went through all of that without mentioning arguably best goalie in the league, Nick Rose. Like, Rosie's a fucking dog, and there's a reason he was in the MVP discussion last year. Like, he was that good, and he will continue to be that good, and we have to get him on this show ASAP, because he would be an absolute joy to sit down and chat with. My few interactions I've had with Rosie, he's the man. So they have one of the best goalies in the league too, which helps you be a pretty damn good team in this league.
Yeah, it does. Realistically, this one's a little bit tougher for me. I guess I got to go TD. Really excited to see TD get back out there in the box game. He's been enjoying the box game a little bit more. Got to talk to him a little bit about that, and he says there is a little bit of adjustment between the two, but he's been having a lot of fun in the box game and getting out and really being an asset to the team outside of the face-off stripe.
Yeah, he had a great year last year, and I think he's only going to improve on that. And he's so much fun to watch, any season. I think my player to watch this year for the Toronto Rock, I've got two. One of them is just, I don't know where his role is going to be. Elijah Gash, I'm excited to watch in the box game and learn from this veteran defensive core. He is so talented, 6'4", 210, obviously played at Albany. I really want to see his game improve, and what a perfect place for him to go to. And then I think my other player that I'm going to be watching a ton of is Marley Angus. You know, he was super fun to watch last year, really had some moments for this Toronto Rock team. And I think if he continues to develop, especially when, you're looking to find offense when Tom Schreiber is out of the lineup, look to a young guy like Marley Angus, who has taken a step forward. And I think he's going to be a ton of fun to watch. Plus, all name team member Marley Angus. So looking forward to watching him play. And I think the other thing too of watching without Tom Schreiber is seeing how Mark Matthews really continues to showcase his talents. You know, he's a seasoned veteran, and he's going to continue to dominate, and he's so much fun to watch. And with Tom Schreiber out, he's going to be somebody that Toronto looks to really, enforce their dominance on opposing defenses and goaltenders. So Toronto's going to be a doozy of a team to watch, just like the last team in Canada. It's your Calgary Roughnecks, Deej. A lot of early off-season woes of it's a rebuild, we're going to be bad, and then look what happened. The Golden Boys return. Curtis Dixon back in Calgary. Dane Doby back in Calgary. Now, obviously, Christian Del Bianco is currently playing in the Arena Lacrosse League. Made his debut the other night. And Zach Currier was traded to San Diego, which you got Curtis Dixon back in that trade. Braden Maia, drafted number 5 overall. Eli Salama back. Tanner Cook back. Kieran McKay back. Harrison Matsuoka, Jesse King, Matthew Gauthier, Matt Abbott, Dan Taylor. You got Jackie Follows. Jack Posey is on this team. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch on the defensive side. Tyler Pace is back. John Lintz is now with this team. Hayden Dixon. Ethan Ticehurst on that defensive. Like, this Roughnecks team's going to be a lot of fun to watch, my brother.
I'm not worried about us being exciting to watch. All right, since I've been watching the NLL, the Roughnecks been an exciting team. My first little glimpses of the NLL, them boys were still wearing red. And you can't tell me they wasn't one of the most exciting teams in the league when they was wearing red. And even you can look last year, the beginning of the season, a little rough. I ain't even gonna cap. But then all of a sudden they won 3-4 games in a row, and they beat San Diego, and they beat some other teams that people are like, they beat them? Yeah, they beat them. And okay, they played Buffalo, they lost by 3. Yeah, they're that kind of team where they're in it with the best
beat
teams in the
Toronto.
league. You beat, like, this team is not in a position where it's too bad to be good. We just lost some very key pieces, Del Bianco and Zach Currier, but
You went 8-10 last year.
just miss out on the playoffs by like this much.
Right. You were third in the tiebreakers of missing out. You finished behind Saskatchewan, New York, and Rochester. Benefit of that 8-10 record, you were 6-3 at home. The home field advantage was real. The flip side, 2-7 on the road. You had a +4 goal differential, 11 goals for per game, 10.78 against, which was one of the best goals against averages in the league. That is up there with the Georgia Swarm and Brett Dobson. That's up there with Dougie Jameson in Albany, in the tens. The offense got better this offseason, no doubt about it. Obviously, you subtract Zach Currier, who's more in the transition game but does everything, but you're bringing back 2 franchise icons who are still playing at the peak of their powers and adding them back in with Jesse King. You're adding that to Matthew Gauthier. You're adding that to Tanner Cook. You're adding that to the prowess that you believe will be Braden Maia and his development as a rookie on this team, and he looks like he's already poised to be a force. Hayden Dixon has been great for this team in his time with the team, and I think he's only going to continue to develop. And Tyler Pace is still on this team offensively. Like, the offense is going to be unbelievable. The defense is young, but there's some veteran pieces in there, like Ethan Ticehurst, John Lintz, Justin Morgan. You have, Jackie Follows is a young piece back there. I'm excited about Jack Posey defensively for this team. We saw what he did in the PLL this past summer with his opportunities, and he's going to get opportunities defensively with this team. Justin Inacio is there taking faceoffs for you. There's a lot to be excited about with this Calgary team, and obviously Eli Salama on that defensive side, Kieran McKay, Jackson Ganton as well, Griffin Hall, Reese Callies. Goalie's the one question, and guess what? You have Colby Bowman in camp right now. You have Cam McLeod, who I'm very big on, in camp right now, and then you have veteran Steve Fryer, #deep, on this roster. Are they Christian Del Bianco? Absolutely not. But when you have the talent on the roster, top to bottom, you can survive right now. And I think the 3 goalies, depending on which ones make it out of camp, they're talented enough to start in the NLL. Like, they can win games for you as a goaltender. And your offense and defense in your transition game, sure, you don't have Zach Currier, but you still have very valuable transition pieces. I genuinely think Calgary is going to be a tough team to beat this year. No matter who's on their schedule, they are not an easy win, especially at home. And it would stun me, honestly, if they're not a playoff team. With the talent that they have, with the veteran presence and expectation that those guys carry, they are going to be fighting for the playoffs week in and week out to make sure that they are in the dance. They're going to be a force this season, especially in Canada. And if you're a Calgary Roughnecks fan, you should be excited. I'm excited for the Calgary Roughnecks this season to kind of get back to that 2019 dominance that they were at.
I mean, I'm excited for Fry Daddy. It's Fry Daddy time. It is Fry Daddy time. He's been waiting, and I think he's going to come in and do his job. I think a lot of people, including myself, are placing a lot of emphasis. I wouldn't say over, but placing a lot of emphasis on the Christian Del Bianco news and what's going on there. But realistically, Steve Fryer is a great goaltender and will go in and step between the pipes and do his job. And Cam McLeod is also a very good goaltender.
And he's young.
So if Steve, if Fry Daddy gets in there and he ain't Fry Daddy in it up, they gonna pull him up out of there. And I trust Cam to come in and put the Mac Daddy down. All right. So I'm trusting Calgary. I like what we have in the goaltender position. I know for sure I love what we have on the offensive side. Transition and defense are a little scary, but this team is in a position to give everybody 4 quarters of hell and to come out and possibly be a team that you don't want to face in the playoffs. You know, of course, no one wants to face the top seed because they've been rolling all year, but nobody really wants to play that dirty, gritty team that won 3-4 games in the last couple weeks to get in, and they know what they're fighting for.
Yeah, I genuinely think this team is going to be a force and super fun to watch. Braden Maia is my player to watch this year. I think so many people are underestimating the value he's going to bring to this offense, and he's coming in as a rookie and gets to learn from Curtis Dixon and Dane Doby and Jesse King and the rest of those boys on that offense that have been in this league for a while and get his feet wet there. What he lacks in height and stature, Braden Maia is only 5'9", 185. What he lacks there, he brings that in his talent. The reaction we got during PLL Media Day to start the season from Jared Newman and Andy Towers about Braden told you everything you need to know about how talented he is as a player. I'm so excited to watch him play in the NLL.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a fantastic guy that's going to come in and provide an off-ball guy. I don't think he'll get a lot of I don't think he'll get tons of respect when he has the ball. There will be guys that know what he can provide and bring, but I think he's a guy that is more going to be off-ball and is going to provide spark when we need someone to step up. We know the ball is going to Jesse King and Curtis Dixon, Hayden Dixon, Tyler Pace. These are the guys we know for sure are getting touches. But when we need another guy to step up, we need a goal in the middle of a game when we're slow. Tanner Cook might be that guy. But then the next possession, next time we need one, it's probably going to be a guy like Brandon Maia, and we need him to be there and ready to fill that role. And I think he'll be able to do so in a very convincing fashion.
And he's on that left side with, Tanner Cook. He's on that left side with Dane Doby, with Jesse King. That's huge for this team. And, Matthew Gauthier is also on that left side. Like, the left side of this Calgary offense is filthy. And then you add Curtis Dixon on that right side. You have also Dan Taylor on that left side. Like, this offense is going to be fun to watch, and I like this defense a lot. I think Jack Posey's going to be awesome to watch. Matthew Gauthier is another player that I think a lot of people are going to enjoy watching. He was with Panther City the last couple of years. Number 20 in that Calgary Roughnecks black and white and gray is going to be a player to watch because now he'll finally have a spotlight because he'll be at the forefront. Also, they have a great player name on their roster on the defense. He's number 21, Bennett Smith. That's my guy.
Yeah, I saw that. I just wasn't finna say nothing to you about it. I'm working on being a Division I hater.
He's a big boy, 6 foot, 207.
That's
going to play nice on that defense.
Hey, you know what? That's around what I would. Man, bro, I'm just having that realization I could have been an NLL lacrosse player. That's all. That's about what I was when I was, a freshman in college. Man, what could have been?
I'm also going to be a big fan of Jackie Follows.
That's just a great name.
Jack Follows is such a good name. And he will, just like Jackie Overtime. Anytime it flows, you just got to call him Jackie. It's just what it is. Jackie Follows is going to be a ton of fun. He's got a nice little stash on him.
I just hope all of his @names on socials are Jack Follows You.
Oh, that's good.
I really hope it is. I doubt it, but I really hope it is.
That would be amazing. But yeah, Calgary's gonna be fun, and I think they're a playoff team.
Y'all heard it here, folks. OTB thinks Calgary's a playoff team.
100%.
Talk to us,
nice. A playoff team. Like, we obviously believe Toronto, Halifax. We'd be stunned if either of them are not playoff teams. I I think Calgary's in the playoff mix. And then the other 3 teams from Canada we talked about, they're all 3 of them, Vancouver, Saskatchewan, and Ottawa, are all going to be frisky and kind of like on the precipice of playoff teams and could be, a 6, 7, 8 seed for sure. And we'll see how it plays. Canada's going to be a force in the NLL this year. That's for damn sure.
Oh, yeah. Canada's going to be cooking like they always are. I would love for this league to get to a point to where there's like a Canadian league and American league.
Like baseball?
Yeah. Like baseball, where the ALCL and then, there's the interplay, but then playoffs, you play for the AL and CL championship, and then those 2 play for the NLL Cup.
That would be sick.
Sign me up, please. Please.
You would realistically just need 2 more teams to even that out.
And it's
both
a done
in
deal.
Canada, and you're good to go. That would be nasty.
I mean, hey, do y'all need somebody? Y'all need somebody in the ideas department over there, NLL? I think I can do that.
We go Edmonton and Montreal.
Yeah. Yep.
That would be fun.
Mm-hmm. And I think about it, like, there's plenty of cities in Canada to stretch out to. So, like, if we want to expand to more American cities, you can do another expansion into a Canadian city either the same year or the next year, and keep the pace going so that it stays even.
That would be fun. I like that idea. I don't know why we never thought of that until just now. Like, we never discussed that
at all
as a way of the league kind of like shifting and evolving.
And then you can get away from the unified standings, and then you have 2 very definitive standings to go off of, which then make your bracket. I don't know how long the league can go without having conferences.
Right.
Like, I feel like that's a pretty big part of being a professional league. Is it helps with schedule alignment. It helps fans form rivalries. It helps fans get a grasp on how early the playoff picture is battling. And there's just a lot that come with conferences, both inside of the game and with teams, but a lot of it is on the fan side. And at the end of the day, if the NLL is going to progress, it needs to dip a little bit more into the fan side.
And it's not even that you need like divisions, because look at the NBA. Like, divisions exist, but they're nothing. Well, it's all about the conference.
And you can go the route that the NBA went, where they started with divisions that dissolved into conferences, and those divisions are still there just to help people remember where everything is and located, but it doesn't mean anything for the standings wise. But still, people, like, at least here in our area, the Central Division on the Eastern Conference, it means a lot to us. We don't want to lose to the Pacers, the Bucks, the Bulls, or the Cavs ever as Pistons fans. Ever. We hate losing to those 5 teams because they're in our division. And once upon a time, you played your division teams more than you played anybody else in the NBA. So those rivalries are deeply rooted based off the fact of playing them so often back in the day. And that's where the time with the Pistons, the Pacers, and the Bulls, those 3 hate each other more than anybody else because they played each other 80, 90,000 times a year when you add in the playoffs on top of being division rivals. So it's so deep. So even if they did start with divisions, it's just going to allow you to deeply root some rivalries and things of that such to take over into conference battle.
See, that's so funny because, like, with the Sixers, like, obviously, like, we hate the Knicks, we hate the Celtics, and they're in our division, but, like, the Nets don't mean shit to us anymore. The Raptors don't really mean shit to us whatsoever. And I view, as a Sixers fan, like, I view, obviously, the Knicks and the Celtics as rivals, but then I also view the Miami Heat as a rival, and I view the Milwaukee Bucks as a rival. Like, I hate losing to those teams.
Yeah, exactly. And that's also the thing is, perfect example, Calgary, San Diego. You break that up into Canada, America, that's going to be one of those interconference rivalries automatically. One, because of
Philly
the
and Ottawa.
that's automatically there, but it's going to mean a little bit more because eventually when you get to the point of the schedule, it's, oh, we play these guys once a year, or we play these guys twice a year. It's once at their place, once at ours, or it's It alternates every year. So that game means a lot more because there is a rivalry there, but you only get so much to really put into it. I think that's why some of the rivalries have died down in the NBA is you went away from divisions, so now you're playing every team in the Eastern Conference 4 times. Okay, now it's not as big of a deal if you lose 1 or 2 of those games to the Bulls because you still can win 2 and make it even on the series. Like it doesn't mean as much because you're not seeing them more than
Mhm.
you're seeing everybody else. But the NLL is in a good space with where the league is now to where those rivalries will be built both off the fact of seeing the team a lot and then not seeing a team as often.
And then just bring back the Canada Cup.
Yes.
That in season.
Which that would naturally do it. Like, I mean,
Right.
if you went down that route, each league gets their own league trophy,
Right.
and then you have the NLL Cup. So, boom, if there's a Canada League, the Canada Cup is already back. Boom, they're done.
Look at us.
You heard it here first.
Who finishes best team in Canada this year?
Who?
Yeah, who's your pick to kind of quote unquote win Canada?
I ain't gonna go against my boys. I'm gonna put my boys up at number 1. Even though that's a little bit of a stretch, I realize that. But a very close second and probably will actually be in first is Toronto at the moment.
Yeah, I got Toronto. I think my top 3 is Toronto, Calgary, Halifax.
I sneakily want to throw Saskatchewan or Ottawa up there. Just because Halifax has given me such I don't want to say rinky dinky, but like just on the edge kind of vibes.
They're Two-Face and Batman.
They literally.
But let us know. Hit us with a voicemail. Let us know if you agree or disagree or in between with our assessment of Canada in the NLL this year. Give us your predictions for those teams and anything in between. Make sure you guys are following us on the socials at OTB Laxpod across the board: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. We're on every platform at OTB Laxpod. Follow DJ SCS_next great. Follow Chase at the PLL Pipeline. Follow Hoots at Hoot Sports Media. And you can follow me at KPIZZL311. Subscribe to the podcast feed on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts in audio form. We know this episode was a long one, but there was a lot that happened and a lot to dissect. So appreciate you coming through. Thank you to everybody that did leave voicemails this week. 5 voicemails on our first ever voicemail episode is huge. So thank you guys for leaving voicemails for sure. Subscribe to the pod feed. Subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel, youtube.com/@Underground Sports Philadelphia. Leave a like on the video. Drop a comment down below with your thoughts on everything we discussed on today's episode. And, of course, click that bell icon so you know when new videos go live. We're at 132 subscribers away from 1,000. We're trying to get there before the end of the year. Let's make that happen. And, of course, check out wallballforwarfighters.com. Register today as the whole month of November. Join in making a difference for our nation's veterans through the power of lacrosse. Whether you're a seasoned player or just starting out, your participation will help raise crucial funds and awareness for veteran support programs. Register today, wallballforwarfighters.com, and check out Shootout For Soldiers website as well, shootoutforsoldiers.com. We thank them for being the presenting partner of the podcast. But this has been episode number 348 of the award-nominated, honorably mentioned, number 9 NCAA ranked, and of course viewable on YouTube, Outside the Box podcast, the official lacrosse podcast on the Underground Sports Philadelphia Podcast Network. For Deej, for Nick Damude, Mitch Jones, Connor Sellars, all of our voicemail callers, I'm your boy KB. We'll catch you back here next week, breaking down some more NLL teams, hopefully some more PLL, wheeling and dealing and craziness. But until then, everybody have a great weekend, and we'll see you next episode. Peace.
Peace.